Tolos in the city of Greer. We are live at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer at Ingles Markets inside the Corner Cafe. Come by and see the show in its entirety. Finally, for the first time in months now, Cole, you and I are both together on location at an Ingles Markets. And this place is absolutely buzzing today, man. 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. This Ingles is absolutely slammed. Want to see you Tolos out here this afternoon. Come by and say what's up. We have $5 Ingles gift cards to give away. We got some cool wire-to-wire and fan upstate prizes as well. If you want to come by and see us, this is where we are, 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. To start the show, Cole, I have 3 simple words. LeBron, shut up. Just shut up, LeBron. Nobody asked you about what you thought about the Celtics and why they lost their series against the Knicks. Welcome into the show, Tolos. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663 is how you can call or text in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. You can also jump into the stream and comment, because now your comments show up on screen as the chat is live. That is awesome. A brand new feature that we have added here to the Fan Upstate and to Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. But LeBron James sticking his nose somewhere, Cole, where it really doesn't belong, where we don't really need his commentary. LeBron has criticized the now eliminated Boston Celtics in a podcast with Steve Nash on Mind the Game. He was asked why he thought the Celtics lost the series, why they didn't look good against the Knicks. And LeBron said, well, I think they were bored. Like, they've been here before, and I think they were bored. What kind of analysis is that? They were bored, so they just gave up and didn't try to win all that hard? What is this, Cole?
I have not heard this yet. I have not heard this audio. Look, Steve Nash, one of the best ever. His podcast, pretty good. I catch it occasionally when it's on TikTok. Short snippet every now and then will show up. But if he was asked about it, you ask the question, what is he doing commenting on it? I'll defend him, as I always do. If he was asked about it, I say, usually when you're asked a question, you can answer it. But the board comment, you said that his comment toward the Boston Celtics were that he thought Boston was a little bit bored.
I've got a quote.
Okay.
I don't have the audio, but I do have the quote. Here's what LeBron James said. It seems like sometimes that they get bored with I don't want to say the process, because, man, they are who they are. And when you look at Tatum and Jaylen Brown, this is years and years and years and years. They've punched their 10,000 hours, but sometimes it seems like they get a little bored because of how great they are. Not only as those two as individuals, but them as a team sometimes look like they get bored.
Yeah.
What does that even mean, LeBron? The best players in the league are bored with being in the playoffs, with having the best season in the Eastern Conference, with trying to go win another title. What kind of analysis is that?
Well, to be fair, everybody said that this year about the Kansas City Chiefs in football, that during the regular season, they were lackluster. I heard that thrown around several times, right? They just looked bored during the regular season. I trying not to completely defend them and understand exactly your point of view as well. I guess, Diesel, from a standpoint of sometimes a team is so talented, like the Kansas City Chiefs, like the Boston Celtics, that sometimes you do the same things over and over and over again, and it may feel monotonous. I don't know that. I've never been on a championship team, right? I've never been on a Kansas City football roster. However, I guess to understand where he's coming from, and, I don't know that he's ever been in that position. Maybe he has a couple of times, maybe when he was in Miami and they were winning a bunch of games in Miami. But maybe the best teams sometimes don't have the motivation. What if he phrased it that way? What if because of their success, they always didn't have the same motivation once they reached the mountaintop?
Well, see, the reason I don't like the comment of they are bored is you can't argue that. You can't debate whether or not they were bored. Nobody has like laser vision and can look into somebody's mind and read their thoughts. Do we really think that Jason Tatum was out there in the first quarter of game number 1 when they were up 20 going, guys, like, I'm really just not all that into this. Like, what are we even doing here? I've played my 10,000 hours of basketball. I'd rather be out fishing or whatever, Jason Tatum is into. I mean, that's not a point that you can debate in any way, shape, or form, saying they look bored out there, because you could also look at somebody with a calm demeanor while in a heightened situation like that and say, well, that's experience. That's a guy who doesn't let his emotions get the better of him. That's somebody who's been here before, who understands how to behave in these situations. Look, LeBron James is he's said many, many times in his interviews that he is a process-oriented guy, and he loves the process, and nobody works harder at the process than him. So given that bit of information, for him to say, well, I don't want to say that they're bored with the process, but I mean, they just look like they're bored. If 5 years from now, 10 years from now, LeBron wants to ride the coattails of some more NBA legends, Shaq and Chuck, and be the new face of NBA on TNT and say stupid stuff like Chuck does to get people's attention, go ahead and do it. But saying the team is bored, I don't understand what that means, LeBron.
Yeah, I'm just reading the rest of the not the full transcript podcast, but he did. I'm trying to wrap my head around what the context was of the conversation. It says, Diesel, that James spoke glowingly about how hard it is to defend the Celtics, saying that Boston is at its best when they can put defenders in a blender and use their bevy of capable shooters to spray three-pointers from all over the floor. He said, obviously, their personnel is expletive, dynamic, and great. Really good and really great is what he said there. We all know that. The trade for Porzingis to be able to get through Holiday in the fashion that got him made them even more elite. And Al Horford coming back has given them another presence. He added, he's so smart. I played against him my whole career. The growth of Tatum and Brown has allowed Joe and the coaching staff to be even more dynamic. So reading the rest of the quotes here, talking about Boston blowing the lead to the New York Knicks, obviously a 38-point I believe it was a 38-point deficit at one time. And Steve Nash kind of went back and forth with him as well. Talked about his gripe with the Boston Celtics is the lack of discipline on the offensive end, struggling to get downhill at some points during the game, and settling for more difficult shots than they're capable of getting. I do think we've talked about this many times in sports, many times, Diesel. It is so hard. People just can't wrap their mind around how hard it is to stay at the top of the mountain. Once you reach that pinnacle of success, like the Nick Sabans of the world, like Dabo Swinney did, getting there is one thing, man. But you've seen over the course of sports, teams and coaches get there. But what people don't realize how difficult it is to stay there. And even for Boston, as talented as they are, Diesel, because they have probably the most talented roster in the NBA, even for Boston, they showed this year that it's tough to stay on the top of the mountain.
JD on the stream says that must be why the Lakers lost to the Wolves. Maybe they were bored. Maybe LeBron James was bored. Maybe Luka Doncic was bored already being a Laker. If you're bored, what are you doing there? If you're bored, go home. Don't play. Don't show up to the arena. Let somebody else have some playing time. That's the way I look at it. It's an inarguable point that you say in a podcast interview, because I don't know. How's anybody going to say, LeBron, you're wrong? They're not bored. I mean, I just don't understand what he based that off of. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We're live at Ingles at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. The question is, Cole, if you've been eliminated from contention, if your team has been eliminated, why are you even out there talking about teams that were made it farther than you? I don't really see that LeBron James had much room to speak on what happened with the Celtics. They advanced farther than you did, so your point is irrelevant.
Well, welcome to the podcasting world.
It's true.
Look, I don't have a problem with it. You know that. I don't have a problem with LeBron or Steve Nash. Steve Nash gave Boston a lot of grief as well.
Well, Steve's not he's not an active coach anymore.
Right.
So I'm totally fine with Steve Nash, with a guy that's got, what does he have now? 40 years experience in the game plus. Totally fine with that, because he's not a coach for another team commenting on the Celtics loss. He's not an active player. commenting on the Celtics loss.
What you're saying is you don't like active plays, right?
I mean,
like Draymond, when he's always on NBA on TNT during like the All-Star break, things like that.
I think if you could, when it's kept under the context of this is what fans don't know about the game, I find that stuff really fascinating and really interesting. But commenting on a team that made it farther than you, saying that this is the reason they lost. When do we know if LeBron called up Jason Tatum? Hey man, were you having fun out there? Why'd you lose that game? It's an inarguable point. I do wonder, Cole, do we have too many player podcasts now? There's so many player podcasts. I did a little digging, and by digging, one Google, and found out that there are 60 current player and former NBA player podcasts that are active right now. 60 of them. That's up from 20 from the previous year, from 2024. There were 20. Now there's 60. I mean, are we getting to the point where we have too much access and too many of these guys are having their own shows?
Well, I mean, it's tough. It's difficult.
Is that even such a thing?
It puts you in a tough spot, I think. If you're going to do it, you have to be very disciplined on how you do it. For example, Micah Parsons. These are one of the best defensive players in the NFL, has his own podcast. And during the season, just like with the Kelsey brothers, it's tough. It provides content. You learn a lot from it. But at the same time, you have to be very disciplined in the way that you do it. The Kelsey brothers, Micah Parsons last year during the season, when the Cowboys really struggled, he caused a lot of controversy. And I think that bleeds over into the locker room. So, look, do I blame the players for having podcasts? Not necessarily in the era, society we live in, Diesel, where it's all about content creation. I don't have a problem with it. I just think it has to be dealt with. I think there should be a podcast coach in every organization. Really, I really mean this, that only handles players in the podcast, because you think if you allow what you say on a podcast to bleed over into the locker room and affect what your peers, your teammates think about you or how you think about them, the struggle with that is on a podcast, on this radio show like you and I do, you have to be honest. And sometimes being honest during the middle of the season, after you just got your butt whooped, sometimes that's just not the best plan for a team, for a teammate. Micah Parsons, Kelsey, whoever it is, Diesel. So I don't mind it. I just really do think there should be some sort of podcast coach or somebody that can help these players understand, look, it's great, but there's also great dangers that go along with this, especially during the middle of the season.
Yeah, some of them are better at it than others. And hey, far be it for me to tell somebody what kind of content to make and what kind of stuff to talk about. I don't listen to player podcasts. I don't really find them all that interesting. I mean, in the modern TikTok world, where you can get 30 seconds of Draymond saying something silly or LeBron saying something silly, all right, I guess. I mean, it's just, I'm not going to spend an hour a day or 2 hours a week or whatever it may be listening to Draymond complain about the referees and try to pitch me on legal services. I mean, these guys, look, I mean, hey, a lot of them are probably using it as another form of cash flow.
Oh,
if you can get BetterHelp and all these other companies that are always advertising on podcasts and on YouTube to throw you a couple $1,000s, why not? I mean,
you could live off the salary from just a podcast.
That's true.
What's that money? Yeah, the NFL money, save it, invest. What's interesting about that, by the way, I love T. Swizzle's comment on the YouTube stream. He says, Wire to Wire is the only podcast that's worth listening to. Dale, yeah, I like that comment a lot, T. Swizzle. Appreciate you and the other Tolos on the stream, live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Going back to your point with player podcasts, I mentioned what it can do to a team during the season. However, how you consume it, you talked about how you, Diesel, consume it. I don't consume podcasts in general in long form. Like I don't have enough time in my day between working 2 to 3 jobs and all the things that we have to do with this job, Diesel. I don't have time to just sit and listen to an hour-long podcast. Now, what I do is at night and in the morning, guess what I spend way too much time on? TikTok, scrolling TikTok. And a lot of those podcasts you mentioned are broken up in real forms, right? Where it's not a 3, 4, 5 minute clip. I'll give you a great example of how these things are benefiting the other platforms. They're doing it the right way because you and I are getting consumed. We're getting pulled in through these, Instagram Reels and TikTok. When I was going to Vegas, Diesel, the other day, a big freaking bee just flew right between us, by the way. When I was going to Vegas, I was watching TikTok, and I saw a clip of Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yep.
And it was this guy from Greenville, South Carolina, who's an ex-FBI agent. So I was sucked in immediately on the 2 to 3 minutes that I watched on TikTok. Well, that led me to, during the plane ride, guess what I did on the way to Vegas? Watched a 2.5-hour podcast with Joe Rogan and this guy from Greenville, South Carolina, who's an ex-FBI agent. So the player podcasts that you're talking about, people still listen to them because there are interesting enough nuggets that draw them in. They go find the full episode. It just takes a lot of time to invest into all of these different forms and avenues and mediums of audio these days.
We got way too much content out in the world, don't you think? I mean, there's so much of it. And, a lot of people are all consumed with this kind of stuff, and they want to hear the back and forth between different podcasters who may see each other on the field. I mean, that to me, that is kind of interesting. You've got two players who are set to face off in week 7 of the NFL season. Yeah. And are they going to say anything about each other either before or after, whether it be trash talking before or gloating afterwards?
Let me ask you this component of it. How, if you're Mike McCarthy, the last year's Dallas Cowboys head coach, if you're Mike McCarthy or Dan Campbell, Diesel, and your players are doing podcasts, not only do you have to do the 1 million things that your job requires into coaching an NFL team, you now have to figure out how to not allow what's said on these podcasts to bleed over into your locker room. That's now one of the biggest responses. I don't think that's fair. I'm not saying don't do podcasts. I don't think it's fair for a head coach to have to worry about that crap. That's not football. That's not what he's paid to do. But unfortunately, that's the world we live in now.
It's almost like you need a get back coach. Who was Brent Venables' get back coach when they were at Clemson on the sideline? Somebody to pull these guys back every now and again and say, "Hey, your podcast is getting a little out of control. It's getting distracted."
So what do you call me?
Coaching, yeah.
I don't know that we've seen that yet at the NFL or NBA level. You mentioned 60 plus podcasts at the NBA level. I don't know that we've seen that yet, but maybe one day you do start seeing social media coaches like you have already on NFL and NBA teams. You have character coaches like, I don't want to say a chaplain, but you have those types of people who
they need about 5 more of them on every team. Have you looked around some of these teams?
I know it is interesting though. There's a lot of content out there. I love content. I will say, isn't it weird how we consume content though nowadays compared to 15 years ago or even 10 years ago? Some days I'll go home and not even turn my television on at night, and guess what I'll do? I'll scroll TikTok for an hour and a half. It's terrible. It's me looking at my device for an hour, but some nights I don't even turn my television on if there's not a big game on. Yeah. I would, because you know why? I can get news a lot faster on TikTok. That's what it is for me.
No, you're right about that.
You'll see funny stuff. You'll see a fat woman, jumping down a slip and slide or whatever in a bikini.
Is that what your algorithm shows you?
Sometimes it does. Yeah, sometimes I have weird algorithms, man. I do find it interesting though how we JD says, "Oh gosh, don't get me started on getting that coaches. That's a discipline problem." JD says content overload. T Swizzle, Ryan Clark, and RG3. Boy, is that a feud right now. That what? T Swizzle, we can find the time today in this show to bring that up. RG3, Diesel, and Ryan Clark feuding back and forth over Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. RG3 had his wife in the background of his video. Ryan Clark mentioned his wife. RG3 said he made it a little too personal, all because of this, what we talked about a couple of days ago with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Can we throw Jay Williams into the mix too and just have them all fight it out until nobody comes out?
It's ridiculous, man. It is, speaking of content, I don't know. I mean, it is just unreal how one basketball foul can turn into this.
Right.
It's crazy.
And I'm seeing tweets and I'm seeing posts today about Angel Reese sending coded messages to Caitlin Clark through her own social media posts and having that spark. Look, I get, and you brought up this point the other day. I think these kind of rivalries and feuds, while kept relatively mild, are good for the game.
Yeah.
But eventually it's going to get to a point where people will be turned off and they're like, you know what? If I wanted to see two girls fight, I'd just watch Real Housewives.
Well, I'm going to get to a break in a second, I promise. But let me ask you this to expound on that. T-Swizzle, by the way, I put that down at 5:20 today. So 2 hours from now, we'll touch back on it. But let's say, for example, what happened, was that Monday night, Sunday night, whatever it was, between Reese and Clark?
I think it was Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday night. I turned on TV Monday morning to hear reactions to it. And you talk about turning people off. Here's the problem. When I turn on a sports show to hear sports, guess what I hear? Racist, hate, those terms being thrown around. And to your point, yeah, it does turn me. I don't want to start my Monday morning hearing about racism. I just don't, man.
Hey, that's the biggest reason why I don't watch a lot of ESPN programming in general. Their midday programming and their morning show programming. I don't want to start my day with two people yelling at each other, even if they're making some decent points.
Right.
Talking to you, Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear people yelling at each other. That's not a positive way. I mean, think about how the the debate format of everything that we watch now is affecting our brain chemistry. It's turned everyone into an adversary of everyone else. It's no longer, hey, let's have a normal conversation about it where we both make some interesting points. It's like, no, you're wrong. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, and I'm going to try to own you on social media for doing so.
Well, some people only know how to do that.
Right.
Only know. That's why I do respect Stephen A. because when he does come on, like yesterday when he was on with Jim Rome or whatever day it was, it wasn't that. He has the ability to turn that off. He does that because guess what? That's what his show is designed to do, right? It is a debate show. But if he comes on Jim Rome and is talking, I said Jim Rome. I'm sorry, Rich Eisen. I'm still programmed. If he comes on Rich Eisen on the Van Upstate from 12 to 3, he can give a really intelligent, deep basketball conversation. But then again, what gets clicks? What gets those ratings, right? It's the debate. It's the yelling back and forth. If it leads, it leads.
Prime
right?
example of that, Cole. We had that audio yesterday of Shaq on whatever show he was on. And Shaq said, yeah, people are talking about the NBA being rigged.
Yeah.
And the host, I've never heard a host admit this in a show. She said, yeah, I said it. I said that the NBA draft was rigged. Quote, sometimes I say bleep like that just to get clicks.
Oh,
she said it in the interview live on whatever show she was on, which is nuts. I've never heard someone admit that before.
That's ESPN, literally to the T. I mean, come on. Let's just be honest about this. One thing that I do want to touch on in the very next segment as we are live in Greer, South Carolina at, 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. Diesel and I are here until 7 o'clock tonight. Come by. We have some gift cards. Some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gift cards.
Yes, we do.
For the Tolos that stop by.
For those watching on the stream, you can see them right here.
So
all fanned out. How
stop
about
by,
that?
grab yourself a gift card.
That's called money right there.
Yeah, you can get you a little dinner plate or something with that, and we'll be here until 7 o'clock. And the very next segment, though, we've talked so much about Bill Belichick and his lover. We haven't talked about, in my opinion, enough, Diesel, what North Carolina football will look like under Bill Belichick on the field. I was reading an article on ESPN the other day, and I found it for this very next segment. What does this new ACC with Bill Belichick look like? We'll get into that next. Well, we've talked enough about Bill Belichick and his young, very, very young girlfriend that he has. I even saw some fake posts over the weekend. I don't know if they were fake. I don't really know what to believe anymore, but I saw posts where they were already engaged. Who knows what to believe on the internet nowadays? But we've talked so much about Bill Belichick and his relationship off of the field. We have not spent much time this spring and going into the summer discussing what Bill Belichick's career and coaching position will look like on the field at North Carolina, what North Carolina will look like under Bill Belichick. Welcome to Wire to Wire. He's Diesel to my right. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you here at the 3:30 mark of the show. Again, we're live at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. We still have some Ingles gift cards for you to give away. And if you swing by, you might just be able to grab one of those. But Diesel, when you look at Bill Belichick in North Carolina, in a conference that year in and year out is very winnable, just ask SMC how easy it is to join a conference. Or, SMU. As I said SMC, like in Spartanburg, a little brain fart there. Just ask SMU how easy it is to join a conference in the ACC and go compete for the conference championship, right? You have to feel like, or tell me if I'm wrong here, you have to feel like Bill Belichick and North Carolina being in the ACC is a place where Bill, if things go well, could rise to the top pretty quickly.
I mean, we'll see. You don't suddenly forget how to play football just because you took a year or so off. But then again, it is adjusting to a different level of football, a different kind of athlete, and a different mindset among his athletes. Now, I think Bill coming into the college game now is as close to or as similar to NFL mindsets of professionalism that we're ever going to see. So in that sense, yeah, I think there's more similarities than there ever have been. But, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with this 2025 season. North Carolina kind of, those last couple of years under Mac Brown, who, again, we all knew was a legendary coach who forgot more football than any of us will ever know. But the game seemed to just sort of pass him by. And we're going to find out if this whole situation with Bill Belichick is going to be the most brilliant move North Carolina's ever pulled, catapulting them into a different status of football program, or if it's just going to be a failed experiment.
By the way, shout out to Tolo Dan, who just stopped by and got a $5 Ingles gift card. You can get a nice Red Bull like I'm drinking right here, Diesel, for $5. You can put it toward your dinner tonight from the Ingles Deli. So we have a couple remaining now, but shout out to Dan. Tolo Dan stopping by in Greer off of Locust Hill Road. I want to see some other Tolos as well. It is interesting when you bring up the college game and how it's more similar now, today's era to the NFL with Bill Belichick. He said in an interview that one thing that I did find interesting, Diesel, he said, I've learned so much being back in the college environment, whether it be recruiting, the college game, the rules, the hash marks, some strategy, and putting a team together. Belichick said, I learn every day. He also added he has not had to change his coaching style, which we didn't really expect him to do, right? We're not expecting him to change the way and the style that he coaches, but he did mention in an interview with ESPN that his players in North Carolina are so eager. He says they're hungry, they have dreams, they want to be good, and I want to help them, or I want to help make them good, and I want to help make them good on a good team. Belichick says they've been very enthusiastic, and we've made a lot of progress. We've got a long way to go, of course. And he was also asked about the attention with Hudson, right? He talked about that. But on the field, when it comes to this article on ESPN.com and what we'll see this fall, I don't think anybody doubts strategy. He talked about that in this interview. Belichick knows football strategy as good as anybody. But I do think, Diesel, when you talk about being able to adapt to the way the college game not only is laid out from NIL and the portal, but the way that you have to run your offenses in college football, the way that you have to score points, it is different. And I'm not saying I don't believe Bill can do it, but Diesel, the only thing that I have question about with Bill Belichick is that post Tom Brady, Bill Belichick teams weren't good. Bill Belichick teams were not good in the NFL. He was in New England for several more years. And I know when you lose Tom Brady, you're going to take a step back. But there was nothing about Bill Belichick that impressed me post-Tom Brady era. Maybe things will go swimmingly in North Carolina, in Chapel Hill. But I do think it's going to take some time for adjustment for Bill.
Well, look, how many times have we questioned why certain players in the NFL or even professionals, even though they're the best of the best, sometimes they can go out there and look terrible. And at that point, you say that's got to be on coaching and that's got to be on scheme. Well, that's not really the case in college football. Most of the time in college football, power programs, especially ones that fancy themselves as the top 2 or 3 in any given conference, should be able to out-talent most of their schedule. Looking at North Carolina's the types of teams that North Carolina plays, and let me look up their schedule for next season. They should have easily 5 teams on this schedule that they should out-talent, just flat across the board. I'm looking at this right now. Sorry, guys. TCU, probably roughly equal, more talented than Charlotte, more talented than Richmond, more talented than UCF, probably more talented than Cal, Virginia, Syracuse, maybe Stanford, Wake Forest. I mean, right there, that's 8 games that you should win because the logo on the side of your helmet is just worth more than the logo on the sides of their helmet. Then you've got those 3 or 4 games that you have to go head-to-head with somebody who is the same talent level or more. So that's going to be an adjustment for Bill. And taking guys, can he develop players in a way that he's never had to?
And talent's definitely going to matter. I do think Belichick's doing a good job of surrounding himself with people to help him kind of navigate this college landscape. He recently hired veteran Chicago Bears PR director Brandon Faber to help him. He was with Belichick at the ACC spring meetings earlier this week in Florida and also accompanied him to New York for his interview with GMA. So I do think he's putting the right people around them. I don't think it's going to be a situation like Paul Maneri is in at South Carolina where the older vet came back into a tough conference and all of a sudden, in air quotes, forgot how to win. I think his landing spot in the ACC will be favorable to your point. The schedule that you just wrote off there, Diesel. But at the end of the day, Bill Belichick's got to have dudes in the ACC. You've still got to win the games. Can Bill Belichick recruit to win an ACC championship? We'll see. The jury's still out on it.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And we'll see if Bill Belichick's coaching knowledge can outweigh the types of recruits that he's getting, because the 2025 class, Cole, they landed 26 3-star guys. Okay, 26 3-star guys. And that's 3-star guys are the bread and butter of most programs, right? Unless you're Alabama, Georgia, LSU, you're living and dying by the 3-stars. They got 1 4-star guy for the 2025 class. If you want to bounce it forward to the 2026 class, again, these guys certainly have not made their decisions final. They've jumped from the 38th best class to the 17th best class. 12 3-stars and 1 4-star guy. I mean, so to me, the Bill Belichick brand is not really resonating so far on paper when it comes to recruiting rankings as much as I think maybe North Carolina hoped that it would. You look around them, Oregon's got a couple of 5-stars and a whole mess of 4-stars. Louisville's got 4 4-stars. Georgia's got 6. Tennessee's got 4 4-stars. Florida State has 5 4-stars. So, again, this is all on paper. We won't know until he coaches a full season or 2.
Yeah.
But I don't know that this Bill Belichick brand, and I said a while back, Cole, that I don't think that Bill is really there to revolutionize the kind of talent that they can bring in. I think Bill is there to revolutionize the systems at North Carolina and engage the NIL arm and get money flowing like it never had before.
Well, getting money flowing is definitely a way to getting the money, the NIL money in Diesel is a way to kind of speed up the process, because you mentioned recruiting. From a recruiting standpoint, yeah, it's going to take Bill some time, some years. I don't think it's fair to judge him off of what he's done in these first few months and when it comes to recruiting. So to your point, it's going to take a few years. However, next offseason, Bill Belichick's going to have money to go get a big-name quarterback. I'm just saying, like, if Nico's situation happened next offseason and the NIL situation was a lot better at North Carolina, would we have put it past Bill Belichick in North Carolina to somehow land Nico? I think the NIL will aid the program, the process, and speed up that process of recruiting in a major way. But at the end of the day, like I said, he's got to be able to go into the kids' homes, living rooms, and money helps. Money talks, if you didn't know that, by the way. But he's got to still sell them on North Carolina. The quarterback room, Bryce Baker, Max Johnson, and DJ Mazzone. So it looks like Max Johnson, Daniel, the senior from Athens, 6'5", 225, will probably be their guy. But I'm telling you, if you've watched Max Johnson, good quarterback, but there's nothing there that screams ACC championship loading for the Tar Heels.
I don't know, man. I think Gio Lopez is going to step in and be a big guy for this team. He's making $2 million a year in NIL. He's on a 2-year, $4 million deal. That's North Carolina right there, paying a group of 5 quarterback, a really, really good one, by the way. Essentially, the upper end of market value for what a really good college quarterback is. And Gio Lopez, he's coming into his sophomore year, so he's got, potentially 3 more years ahead of him at North Carolina, assuming he stays, right? With the transfer portal, you just never know. But I think the guy is right there on the roster. I think Gio Lopez becomes the starter of this team.
Do you think game one, like for a guy, for example, Max Johnson, who's a senior, do you think Gio Lopez jumps on that early, or do you think it takes time?
I think it takes a couple of weeks.
It's
sort of it takes one or two bad performances from Max for them to, throw that proverbial hook out there and pull him off to the side of the stage. And then Gio Lopez, all he has to do is go in there and have that one great game, and he's the guy.
Yeah, and it may take summertime and fall camp for him to maybe emerge. It could happen. It is going to be interesting, though. I'm excited. Not that I think North Carolina is going to go out there and instantly compete in the ACC, Diesel, but I am excited by the fact that the ACC is a little spicier. I'm not saying better yet, but it's a little more spicy than it used to be with Bill Belichick coaching in the ACC.
Yeah, it raises everyone's profile. It makes everyone have to step up and do more. They're never going to have the same kind of money that the SEC programs have.
Maybe 2 months from now, you and I are sitting across from Bill Belichick in Charlotte.
Wouldn't that be fun, right? Fun. We actually get some answers out of it.
Bill, did you bring Hudson with you?
Bill, is it true that you two are going to honeymoon right before the season starts?
No.
Were you getting those rumors too? Like constantly? I was even getting them. I was getting the push notifications to my phone saying that those two were engaged. Yeah. And that kind of stuff is getting old. These fake news that Google itself are push notifying me of.
Yeah.
And they're banking on the fact that people are not going to take their time to read this and really figure out if it's true or not. We talked about that a while back, that we keep getting these things. When we come back, Cole, the Carolina Hurricanes, they have, they got absolutely smacked around last night by the Florida Panthers. What went wrong? Why did this happen, and how do they fix it? That's coming up next. These Carolina Hurricanes have got to figure out a way, Cole, to pull their heads out of their own ice holes because they got absolutely demolished last night by the Florida Panthers, a team that had just 48 hours prior been locked in a Game 7 with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. We're live on location in Greer at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer at the Ingles Markets inside the Corner Cafe. But, man, I'm going to call it like it is, a pathetic performance from Carolina's goalie, Frederick Anderson. Just couldn't stop anything, Cole. Couldn't stop a fart if he clenched. I'm telling you, man. And it's not as if the Florida Panthers were peppering the Carolina Hurricanes with shots over the course of that game. They did. They were taking very strategic shots, and they were finding the net. Think about it this way. They only took 20 shots. 5 of them hit the back of the net. That's one out of 4. That's not good.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at a post-graduation party at a place in Spartanburg last night. There was a guy at the bar, and he lives here now in the upstate, but he's from North Carolina, and he was locked in to the Hurricanes game. So I struck up a conversation with him. He said, I love the Canes, love them. And you're right. It never really got off to a good start last night. At no point did you feel like there was some momentum on the side of the Hurricanes. Defensive breakdowns, a plethora of them last night where they just could not, to your point, stop a cold. Florida capitalized on Carolina's penalties as well, Diesel, converting 2 of 3 power play opportunities, which is big. And Florida's a good team. We all know that. You mentioned they went to a Game 7, but it feels like keeping up with hockey or just keeping your eye on it every year in and year out. Florida's right there at the end of the season.
I mean, Carolina outpaced them 33 shots to 20. They had 50 hits to the Florida Panthers 47. They won 60% of the faceoffs. This is one of those that we see them in football all the time, and you see them in sports all the time, where a team is statistically better. Yeah. Just they don't get in the one category, the one statistic that actually matters, which is points. Again, Frederick Anderson, he had a couple of days to get ready for this team. They had time to rest, and they just didn't seem like they were ready against a really good Florida team. I mean, they're defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason.
I mentioned the power play from Florida's standpoint. Carolina was 0 for 3 in power plays last night up until late in the game, Diesel, when it was already out of reach. So it's tough. And you know this, when you talk about momentum and momentum swings, Carolina got into a hole. They dug themselves into a hole, and the Panthers were physical. They were disruptive. It was just never enough momentum. They were gritty. The Panthers were a gritty team. There was never enough momentum for Carolina to mount a comeback and just get into a rhythm. And when you get behind the 8 ball and you dig yourself into a little bit of hole, they can kind of put the clamps on you a little bit, like we see in the game of basketball as well. When a team's just got you clamped down defensively, they couldn't find any wiggle room last night.
3 firsts for this Carolina Hurricanes team last night. None of them good firsts. It's the first time in these playoffs that a team has scored more than 4 goals on the Hurricanes. The first time in these playoffs that the Carolina Hurricanes lost at home, and the first time a team scored more than once on their league best penalty kill. The Hurricanes penalty kill had stopped 14 of 15 power plays at home and 28 of 30 overall in the playoffs until Florida got their goals. I mean, they just I can't think of another word for it than crap the bed.
They got whooped.
Yeah, they got whooped.
You know what's interesting? We're going to run to a break, Diesel. We talk about streaks and sports all the time. Carolina's on the wrong side of the ring. On the wrong side. This was the Hurricanes' 13th consecutive loss in the Eastern Conference Finals. Again, their 13th consecutive loss in the Eastern Conference Finals, a streak that dates back to 2009, Diesel. They have struggled mightily in the postseason. Speaking of postseason, it's time to talk postseason baseball, Clemson baseball. Matt Smith, Smitty, our good friend of the show, is live in North Carolina at ACC Baseball Championship Weekend. Smitty will join us in the very next segment to give us an update on what's happening in Durham. It's the ACC Championship. We'll talk about it with Smitty next. Postseason baseball is upon us, Diesel. It's time to get into the nitty-gritty. Clemson baseball in the ACC tournament, coming off of a nice weekend this past weekend to finish regular season play in the ACC. To talk about that and a lot more, we bring on good friend of the show, Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network. You've heard him on here before, and he joins us right now. Smitty, before we dive in to Clemson baseball and everything else that we're going to touch on today, a little bit of breaking news from ESPN. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins the NBA MVP, Most Valuable Player. He joins two other Oklahoma City Thunder as players to win the MVP. Smitty, starting this off with a little trivia. Who does SGA join as the other two Thunder who have also won the MVP award? Yep. Yeah, that was easy. Smitty's too good. He's too smart.
He just knows all. He's a smart guy.
Smitty knows all. Can you change your Twitter handle to Smitty knows all ball?
Well, if he did that call, he'd have to fight Rob Brown for the Twitter handle because Rob knows ball, and then we'd have to have Rob and Smitty have a know-it-all.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you say, like, if you have to say you're a humble guy, maybe you're not real. Smitty's always the guy that says, I'm a real humble guy. Usually the humble guy doesn't have to tell everybody he's humble, right?
That's a given on this show,
Join
Smitty.
the club.
Yeah, welcome. South Carolina, mercy killing maybe at the hands of the Florida Gators yesterday. Their season is officially over. Palmineri's first season in Columbia is done. We've seen reports now over the last 24 hours that even though it was still up in the air, we all figured Paul wasn't going anywhere. We just keep getting more and more confirmation that Paul is going to stay there in Columbia. So now looking forward into next year, Smitty, in your opinion, just how short is the leash that Jeremiah Donati is putting on him? Is it going to be if things aren't going well by the Clemson series, if they're not going well by mid-season or mid-SEC play, or do you think Paul ends up getting the whole 20, 25, 26 season?
Eagles Pharmacy has a mobile app. Search Eagles RX in your app store to download. With our app, you can check the status of your prescriptions, request refills, receive refill reminders, and more. Search Eagles RX in your app store to download today.
Benefits including flexible scheduling and travel opportunities, house training, comprehensive health insurance, vacation pay, sick pay, 401k matching, and more. Apply online at Eagles Careers. .com or visit your local university. Opportunity.
We're talking to Matt Smith, Smitty, Sports Talk Media Network, right here on the Fan Upstate. You can watch the show live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Also, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, 97.7 FM in Greenville on the free Odyssey app. Smitty, you are at the ACC tournament. Clemson, Virginia Tech, bottom of the sixth. The Tigers have a 5-1 lead. According to the latest reports and scores that I have seen. Correct me if I'm wrong on that score since you're there and you've got your eyes on it. And talk about Clemson with a little bit of a rough landing to the 2025, the ending of the season, if you will, even though they did get a sweep last weekend, and what you think this team can be in the postseason. Wow.
Imagine a Kia one, please. Kia one.
Smitty, let's talk about that word expectations there for just a second and go back just a little bit to the South Carolina discussion. You know, in no time in sports have we ever seen coaches directly affected by fans the way that they can be right now with NIL collectives and money that is out of their hands, out of the coaches' hands, and their ability to spend and go get guys on their team. What are you hearing from the folks around South Carolina's program when it comes to the level of giving that the Garnet Trust and others involved are going to be willing to give to Paul Maneri. And that's maybe is a really tough thing to gauge, but man, if people feel like they're wasting their money throwing it at a lame duck coach, then it's going to turn him into a lame duck coach because they can't get the talent that they need. So expectations or any nuggets that you're hearing, what have you heard?
What's up, boys? April Mosley.
Flipping it back over to Clemson, Smitty, what do you attribute late season slides to? When you look at what Clemson did at one time during the regular season, they were number 2 in the country. And then they had some skits down the stretch, and we'll see. They didn't play a great team to end the season last weekend, but we'll see what this team looks like in the postseason. You've been around the sport of baseball for a long time. How can you explain what you saw from Clemson?
But I do think there is an element of, I don't have it in front of me, but we did go over this on Sports Talk a little bit, just how many tomato cans that Clemson was able to rack up wins against in the middle part, the heart of their schedule. And when they play some of the tougher teams, some of the top-tier ACC, and again, everybody falls prey to this. Look at any of the teams in the SEC. They don't clean up against top competition either. But I think Clemson maybe got over its skis, and everyone did, in ranking them as high as number 2. This was probably never the second-best baseball team in college. It probably wasn't. It's probably properly ranked now in the top 15, a 5 seed in the ACC, and they're probably going to get a regional host. That's right where they should be, and let's see if they can earn it from there.
Talking to Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network. Smitty, something really fascinating is going on right now. As close as we're ever going to get to like a a collective player representation, spending time in front of Congress, talking to them about changes coming towards college football and college athletics in general. Well, congratulations, Smitty. You didn't realize this was going to happen today. I'm going to make you a congressman, and you're now in that room. You're a moderator of college football now, sort of acting as a middleman between athletes and stewards of the game. What are you asking both sides to give up to bring them closer to some point in the middle that's amicable and equitable for everybody?
Oh, well, if I were a congressman, I'm a scandal waiting to happen. I probably will be doing something tonight that would get me in a lot of trouble. But first thing I would want to find out is, why are we in charge of this? And I know a lot of people have said they want some clarity. They need federal rulings on this. The NCAA is a federal body. I mean, not officially part of the government. I'm saying it is supposed to represent all of the schools. What's happened is the NCAA has punted on all of this. So the first thing I'd like to find out if I worked as a congressman is, hey, NCAA, what's your role? What are you doing? Because if you're just going to punt on everything and just wash your hands of it because you're angry that you lost the court case and the amateur model, which probably has been a lie for our entire lives, has finally just been exposed and you've had to shift. You have no plan B? Are you even involved in this? So I would talk about disbanding it. And they have put a lot of the onus on this new P4 group. So I would want to find out, is the NCAA going to continue to be a governing body? If not, they can leave the room. If they're not going to have a role here. And then I'd also want some clarity from the courts. Where does this end? Because some people have said, well, why not have NIL for high school athletes? Well, one of the reasons I could tell you is many of them, almost all of them, are less than 18 years old. There's a lot of things 18-year-olds are not allowed to do, or if you're less than 21, you're not allowed to do. I need to know, if I were a congressman, I need to know, what is the court going to do in this? Because any ruling that we come up with, any law that we put on the books, is it going to be upheld by the courts? So I need some clarity from both of those sides. The athletes are just, it's a strange, you say athletes, but athletes are one thing that are playing currently, and it's another thing. Some of them are 10, 12, 14 years old, and they're going to have to abide by these laws in the future. So we need to look into the future and say what is fair, what is right. We probably can't make things right for former athletes. So what are we going to do starting now? And I really, really would like to know, NCAA, you've been an ineffective, ineffectual, impotent body for almost 50 years. Either stand up and do something or leave the room and disband.
Smitty, my last question for you. We discussed this in the last segment, I believe, or maybe 2 segments ago. We've spent a lot of time talking about Bill Belichick and his younger girlfriend, but when you look at what actually could happen on the field in 2025 in the ACC, where in your mind does North Carolina stack up? Could they rise to the top quickly?
I really don't know. And you bring up a great point. Bill Belichick, when he was the coach of the Patriots, everybody raved about how it was no nonsense. It was like the Spurs and the Patriots. Somehow they had found the secret formula to keep distraction away from players, and that all stars were treated the same way as the last player on the bench. Bill Belichick hasn't even coached a game at North Carolina the first game at North Carolina, and he's all over the tabloids. This is just bonkers. And I do think it's an issue because there's no way that this much attention, it's like the Kardashians. You can't pay this much attention to everything and do your job effectively. So I think there's issues there. And what is North Carolina's talent level going to be? To me, the most fascinating part of this story might be Mac Brown, a story that broke today. He has said that they're lowering the academic standards in Chapel Hill to help Bill Belichick win ball games. I'd like to know a little bit more about that as well. I don't know. Everybody just assumes because Bill Belichick has more Super Bowls than everybody else that he will just go in, put a plan in place, and they'll win games at North Carolina. I'm not convinced yet. I mean, they're not going to be bad. They're just not going to be bad. And he is a good football coach. I mean, that's the understatement of the year. But is he the same man? We saw Bill Walsh return to college. He coached at Stanford. Then he went on, had a tremendous NFL career with the 49ers, then went back to college to Stanford. Well, that didn't necessarily work. John Robinson returned to college. We've seen a lot of coaches do that. Some have worked out, some haven't. So I don't think it's just a given that Bill Belichick is going to go into the ACC and school everybody. Because if you don't have the players, which you saw at the end of Belichick's tenure in New England, without Brady, he wasn't nearly as good. Will he be able to just outsmart and out-X and O the other coaches? I doubt it. He'll just have the hottest girlfriend at the end of the day. I think they'll go 8-4, and he's just going to be in the tabloids for most of the year. I just don't know that this is a home run, not the home run hire that North Carolina thought it was on day one.
Smitty, I question, how do you make underwater basket weaving classes any easier? You're just going to hold them on dry land? I mean, North Carolina, I refer to them all the time as their 30 years of systematic academic fraud. How do you make it easier?
Oh, yes. So that's a zinger because, yes, they're going to lower the academic standards, and they had some fake classes years ago that North Carolina got popped for. This is an entirely fair question to ask about North Carolina. So this is just, think about what we've just done. We have not talked about on-the-field issues. It has been all off-field right now, and Bill Belichick is famous for making it about on-field, not about his press conference, not about what the guys do at the club after the game. It's about on-field performance and what they do on the practice field and on game day. And somehow he's messed this up, and he's got to turn that around because right now nobody's talking about North Carolina football. They're talking about his girlfriend, Jordan.
Very true. Smitty, also very true. You're the best. We appreciate you slipping out of the press box, I assume, up there at the ACC Baseball Championship to spend some time with us, as always, and we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. I hope you're over your depression since LeBron's been eliminated. I hope you're back to yourself.
I'm working on it. It's a process. Thanks,
All right,
Smitty.
well,
Dump Smitty. Dump him
is
after that
interesting.
comment. Thanks, Smitty.
Thanks, pal.
Always good stuff, man. Always until he starts throwing. He's a Lakers fan, so what do you say? He's guilty as well. He's always great.
Multiplying.
He is always good, and always appreciate him, man. That's a lot of fun.
Love talking to Smitty, but yeah, that's interesting that North Carolina's lowering academic standards to make recruiting a little bit easier. Speaking of which, Cole, when we come back, we'll do a way too early ranking of the 5 best quarterback rooms in the ACC going into the 2025 season. I've got a pretty solid list of the top 10. Cole, you get to pick and choose what you think your top 5 are. We'll come around to that next, right here on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere on the free Odyssey app. just had a celebrity appearance here at Ingles
We did.
Markets. The one and only April Mosley stopped by with her two sons. She said they listen to the show every single day, and obviously April pops up in the stream every now and again. She and Madcraft had a bit of a run-in yesterday. Things got a little heated in a fun way. So we appreciate April stopping by. We just had Todd stop by as well. I assume, unless somebody sticks the wrong name on his shirt. I don't know, but his shirt said Todd. So Todd was here. So that was awesome.
I was trying to catch it like he had on a work
I think
shirt.
he had like on a Ford work shirt.
Right, with his name. It was good to see Todd, April, and we saw somebody else earlier. You talked to him. I didn't get to speak to him. I believe they worked here. I don't know if they listen to the show as well.
Tolo, and I'm blanking on his name. I apologize. He works over here in the Ingles department in the deli, and he listens to the show every day. Hardcore Alabama fan. Every time he's here, we always talk about Kalen DeBoer and Alabama and how things went for him in his 2024 season. But we have another celebrity on the phone lines. We go right now to Guy in Greenville. Welcome to the show, Guy. What's up?
Hey, no. It's just celebrity. Oh, great.
Celebrity guy.
Just take the compliment, Guy. Come on.
That mail situation.
I was too scared, man. I wasn't going to go get that package.
Mail problem.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go get that package. That's scary stuff, man. That's probably anthrax in the mail.
It was legit.
Oh, well, if it was legit, then it's still there. We can go back and get it.
Okay, except look at the notice. That would have been, see, what they do is the first time it's a pink notice, and it used to be the second was a pink notice. Now, like I said, I'm in a new office, so it caught me off guard, too. The second notice indicating it's a final notice is white.
Okay.
So if you don't get there by a certain date, it should put the date on it. Otherwise, it's going back.
Interesting. Okay, appreciate it, Guy. He's calling about something that happened on the show last week. Like, see, my whole my fraud meter is going off lately because we get so many of those fake text messages saying pay your tolls or you owe this or there was a package sent to your door. Like, I'm really wary of that kind of stuff now, man. So we got in our mailbox, we got this sheet of paper, as a half a sheet of paper with a photocopy of like a final notice of delivery in our mailbox. And I thought this thing was fake, man. It's like, I ain't going to the mail center to pick this thing up. I'm not wasting my time going over there. So I didn't even bother. And I just completely forgot about it. And Guy works for the USPS. So he wanted to know what was going on with that situation.
Hey, how about this note? Todd, that you mentioned, Tolo Todd, who stopped by, he dropped us off a note. I mean, awesome. So he didn't interrupt the show, right? He said, I wanted to let you all know that you do a great job. The Upstate supports you and Ingles. He said, I've been a listener since 2014. He's been to Ingles several times, and he says, love your show. That comes from Tolo Todd.
That is awesome.
Todd, you're the man. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you supporting Ingles, supporting us, the Fan Upstate. It's people like you and April Mosley and everybody else that we've seen today. We had another guy that dropped in earlier, too. I forgot his name already. I'm sorry. We've had several.
Dave, Paul,
Dave, somebody, I don't know who it was.
If he was here, he'd buy the whole store.
Yeah, pizza review. But so good to see all of you so far today.
Live update for you, by the way. Clemson leads Virginia Tech, bottom of the seventh, 6-1.
Wow.
Clemson has 9 hits on the day. Virginia Tech, 4 hits. Another little live update for you from the SEC baseball tournament. Bottom of the 6th, Alabama, Tennessee deadlocked at 6 runs apiece. We'll keep you updated as those two games. There's a lot of games on right now, but those are the two that obviously you Tolos are going to care the most about. But Cole, very quickly, as we've kind of burned about a third of this break here, or a third of this segment, let's look at the ACC and the quarterback situation for these teams. I want you and I want the Tolos also to power rank your top 5 ACC quarterback rooms going into the 2025 season. How are these quarterback rooms going to fare? Obviously, when you frame it from the perspective of quarterback room, you have to look at the backup situation as well. The starter is the starter for a reason, and that's the main part of the conversation. But who do you think sits prettiest right now as we are? I lost counter, somewhere around 95, 94 days away from the start of college football.
Under 100's all that matters.
That's right.
Under or back to
getting
double digits.
Careening headlong towards college football.
Ready, man. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
There's some big names in the ACC this year.
Yeah, it's fun. It's going to be fun this year.
With Clemson, obviously, you've got Cade Klubnik and Christopher Vezina. With SMU, you got Kevin Jennings, who was really, really good last year. He comes back. Obviously, they lose a lot when it comes to offensive production, but quarterback room specifically here, they bring back a lot. Haynes King is still at Georgia Tech, who feels like he's been there for like a decade now. Carson Beck is now playing with Miami.
Yep.
You got Gio Lopez at North Carolina. Miller Moss transferred from Southern Cal to Louisville. How you feeling about these quarterback rooms?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of interesting stories. However, how do you feel better? I'm not gonna lump Cade Klubnik into this because I think he sits at the top of the ACC. How do you feel better about a quarterback not named Cade Klubnik than you do about Kevin Jennings? I mean, was he not good enough last year to show that he should be talked about as one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the ACC this season? He outplayed every quarterback in the ACC at times last year and took his team as their first year in the conference to a conference championship. It's pretty impressive. And he returns. How much emphasis do we always put on a returning quarterback? Look, I love Cade Klubnik, of course, but Kevin Jennings, man, I think he's right there. I think he's right behind Cade, and he's gonna be a lot of fun, man.
So SMU is your 2?
I think so.
Quarterback room situation?
I mean, look, the problem is we just don't know enough about Miami. Carson Beck's good. We know what Carson Beck can do. And Haynes King's a good quarterback. But, man, I'm telling you, you look at – yeah, he is my 2. 100%.
100%?
100%.
Yeah.
He's my 2.
I agree.
I really like it.
I mean, is there any case to be made for anybody, any quarterback room being better than what Cade and Christopher Vezina have there at Clemson? Probably not. I mean –
no.
Cade is a Heisman Trophy candidate, and they're looking at this team as a potential national championship contender. Kevin Jennings, the thing that worries me about Kevin, and again, this is not his fault, but they lost a lot.
Yeah,
they lost a lot off of that team last year. But when you've got a quarterback, you've got everything, right? A great quarterback can make mediocre or new guys, new players who are just coming in and learning the system. It can elevate them to a level that they wouldn't obtain with another quarterback. Kevin Jennings, my clear number 2 as well. Here's where it starts to get a little bit murky if you want to go 3 through 5 or 3 through 6 or 7. I really like Haynes King at Georgia Tech now that he's got another year under his belt.
Yeah, I do too.
Do I think that he's going to elevate this team to a whole nother level? I don't think so. At the end of the day, it's still Georgia Tech. But I do like Haynes King quite a bit. Carson Beck is my number 4. I like this a lot, and I put Haynes and Carson kind of side by side. Carson, I think, a better quarterback, and he's got a little bit better of a offensive line situation compared to what Haynes is going to have at Georgia Tech. But I really like Carson at Miami.
Where do you? I don't disagree, but think about what Jeff Brom did with Tyler Shuck last year.
Right.
And think about with Louisville's situation, Diesel, if Miller Moss could be – I'm not saying he has to come in and be a Heisman Trophy contender, but if Miller Moss can live up to just a little bit of the hype that was surrounding him back in December when he entered the portal, Diesel, Jeff Brom's he's a really good college football coach.
Yeah.
Maybe the dark horse is Miller Moss, and maybe it's not fair to call him a dark horse, but Miller Moss and Jeff Brom, I think, should scare people in the ACC. I don't know what they'll have in terms of the rest of the team and the weapons, Diesel, but those are going to be fun to watch.
You know who's not anywhere close to my top 5 is a guy that I was really high on last year. It's Kyron Drones at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I thought that dude was going to light it up in 2024. He ultimately didn't. Obviously had a terrible season there at Virginia Tech. Didn't stand up to anything that we thought he was going to be. But, he's got to show me now. He's burned me, so he's got to show me. C.J. Bailey at NC State, solid guy, 65% completions last year, 2,400 yards, 17 touchdowns, can use his legs a little bit. He's been around for a little while. I think C.J. Bailey, really good, but certainly not top 5.
Yeah, no, he's really good as a freshman. He was one of the the top freshman performers in school history. He started 9 games at NC State, Diesel, and he was called into action a little earlier than expected with injuries to Grayson McCall. Grayson McCall couldn't stay healthy, and he ranked 8th in the ACC in total offense touchdowns in 2024 with 22, ranked 8th in passing efficiency with a 143.97 mark, 10th in the league in passing yards. So I think he's a serviceable quarterback without a doubt. However, you're asking the question, top quarterbacks, best quarterback rooms in the ACC. I just don't know that you can put C.J. Bailey near the top quite yet. Maybe he could be the one that surprises us.
My number 5, Cole, and this is one we've talked a little bit about today. I'm saying North Carolina with Gio Lopez stepping in to be the starter. Gio Lopez was phenomenal last year at South Alabama. I think they got something really special in him. 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, takes good care of the ball. By the way, he did that as a freshman at South Alabama. I think coming to Chapel Hill, I think Gio Lopez is going to take this conference by storm. Maybe not be in the ACC championship game, but certainly be in the running to be in the ACC championship game.
Wasn't it Tom in Somerville that told us last year, just kept saying his name over and over last year, Gio Lopez? Yeah, I think so. I asked you earlier in the show a question that I find interesting of how soon he'll contend for that starting job. What Bill Belichick will do with him there. Maybe he wins it before the season starts. You have a senior in the quarterback room, and I think that's going to make things interesting. But you're right. He was really good last year, so that'll be a lot of fun. But you know what? Tell me the last time, Diesel, we're sitting here having the conversation about these really good quarterbacks all in the ACC at one time. It's been a while, man. We haven't had this conversation in a long time.
No, I mean, look, not everybody can play on every team at a given time. So you got a bunch of dudes who couldn't get on the field in the SEC, in the Pac-12, in the Big Ten, wherever it may be. And those guys run off looking for other opportunities. Some of them run off for playing time. Some of them run off for more money. But, I think it's really interesting that so many of them are choosing the ACC.
I'll tell you what is interesting, how Minnesota fell flat on their face last night. Just a butt whooping. The Timberwolves did not look good. We'll get into that next. Well, the NBA playoffs last night, Diesel, one team, you and I talked about it yesterday to start the show. One team last night showed up. One team, boy, they got their butts whooped in the second half. In the first half, it was competitive, man. The Thunder and the Timberwolves last night, the Thunder just take them down to the woodshed, 114-88. It was actually a 23-20 lead, Diesel, after the first. Minnesota had a lead, and then they outscored the Thunder again in the second quarter. At halftime, you're thinking, man, Minnesota's got this thing in the back. They're playing really good. However, look at what happened in the second half last night. The Oklahoma City Thunder, Diesel, outscored Minnesota 32-18 in the third, and then 38-22 in the fourth. The Thunder put it on Minnesota in the second half. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this year's MVP, was phenomenal, 31 points. It looks like this Thunder team, Diesel, we made our predictions, but this Thunder team's legit. They're legit.
Yeah, they're turning it on at exactly the right time. Even first half, really competitive first half, 48-44 at halftime of that game. And then the defense for Oklahoma City just clamped down in the second half. They had a ton, they forced 17 turnovers, leading to 31 points in that game. 35% shooting from the field, 30% from three-point range for Minnesota. I mean, they just did a fantastic job shutting down what it was that the Timberwolves wanted to do. Cole, you can tell sounds like we're in a
spaceship,
an airplane hangar, just every couple seconds. The announcement's going on here inside the store, which is where we are, by the way. We're at Ingles Markets inside the Corner Cafe at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, I really did. We talked about it yesterday. I really did think Minnesota might be a little bit of a matchup problem, but SGA's playing not like a star, Diesel. He's playing like a superstar. And didn't we just have that same conversation yesterday? He attacks the basket. He draws fouls. I mean, I think he was at the free throw line like 97 times last night, and he hits clutch shots, man. I'll tell you this, Diesel, SGA has the ability to control the tempo of a game and finish in traffic. And when you look at how teams win in the NBA postseason, teams impose their will, and the other team has to use a chess match formula to try to figure out how to counter. Last night, Minnesota in the second half didn't have a counter to the chess match that the Oklahoma City Thunder put on them. You're just talking about a guy right now that's leading this team in SGA who was just named the league's MVP. He's on another level. They have incredible ball movement. They're unselfish. They have open looks after open looks. And I'll tell you what, man, if you watched that game last night, Minnesota's defense was scrambling at times. And they also struggled offensively. Anthony Edwards had a tough night. Karl Anthony Towns wasn't really good. He couldn't impose his will. They had terrible shot selection down the stretch, in my mind. It just was a bad disaster, if you will, Diesel, in the second half. And now all of a sudden, you look at this Oklahoma City Thunder team is a legitimate team that can win the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, big-time contributions off the bench as well from some guys. Jalen Williams, 19 points. Chet Holmgren, 15 points. Again, that's how you keep a team on their heels. You move the ball constantly. You have scoring from all over the court. You can't key in on guys. You can't cheat a little bit. You got to stay close in your defense. So really, really just a team win in the second half. And it goes to show, Cole, there are teams that are still willing to play defense in the NBA and are willing to get after it. And the Thunder, man, they will flummox, to pull out a new word that I don't think we've ever used on this show before. They just absolutely flummoxed the Minnesota Timberwolves in the second half.
Can we stop the press for a second? Can we just park on this? Because I don't think this has been highlighted enough, Diesel. Think about this. You know how long an NBA season is? In 2024-2025, Diesel, the Oklahoma City Thunder have lost 6 games at home. 6, Diesel, in the whole season. 6 games. They're unbeatable at home. I mean, that is just, think about that. 35-6 on your home floor. This team, after watching them last night, I'm going to overreact. This team right now is going to win it all. They're going to win the whole thing.
They're going to win it all.
Well, you can't say that because you already picked Timberwolves. You can't go back on your word
I'm
now.
overreacting on a Wednesday. They looked like the best team in the NBA in the second half last night. I just left that game thinking, oh, well, they're going to win the championship. Like, they look so good.
Yeah, I mean, they we'll see if they can roll over these Timberwolves. I mean, you picked them just to be different, right? Just to go opposite of me yesterday.
Heart.
But I mean, truthfully speaking, the Thunder, I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to say sweep.
Yeah.
Thunder in 5. I think yesterday I said Thunder in 6. I think Thunder may take this thing in 5.
They look so dominant. And I'll tell you what could make this series more fun. As good as they looked last night, can Minnesota turn the tables on them and get the next one? And that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Now,
the numbers would say they're probably not going to do that in Oklahoma City.
Not at home, not on their home court. Tonight, Diesel, before we run to a break, Indiana, New York, 8 o'clock, game 1, a clash of styles, the fast-paced offense of Indiana versus the slower, methodical approach that New York has, relying on their starters. Tonight's game should be a lot of fun at 8 o'clock on TNT. You have Jalen Brunson versus Tyrese Halliburton, Karl Anthony Towns for the Knicks, Miles Turner for the Pacers. I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. I do like the Knicks. I told you that I'm picking them with my heart, but I think I might leave this one thinking the same thing. The Pacers are just so freaking good, man.
Well, the good news is I'll be able to key in on this game tonight. Last night I was sitting there getting mad, yelling at the screen as the Hurricanes just couldn't get off their blocks and win that game last night. But so I was watching that, not this game as closely as I should have. Tonight, though, it is all NBA. This is going to be a good one, a really good basketball game. I still think the Pacers win this series. You know, you put it down to the moment when the game is tight late. Who would you rather have, Jalen Brunson or Tyrese Halliburton?
Yeah,
with the ball in their hands. That's two really, really good, two really, really clutch guys for both of these teams. When we come back, Cole, we are going to go back to the gridiron here for just a second and throw the blame game at USC's head coach Lincoln Riley for running scared from one of college football's greatest rivalries. We'll get into it next, right here on the Fan Upstates. and now Rick in Greer in his own hometown has graced us. Rick, we didn't know if you were going to show up or not. We didn't know if we could believe anything that you tell us if you weren't going to get here in your own.
Diesel, here's the best part.
2%. You're a 2%er like that, Rick. We believe 2% of what you say.
I picked my bowl of watermelon up and showed Rick, and he said, "No thanks, I don't eat greens." I said, "What do you think?" He said, "I thought it was turnip green." Where do you see turnip greens, Rick?
Good God.
Oh, who's that? Oh, I liked it. Oh, except who gave you that? Landon Powell.
Landon Powell, another local celebrity.
Except it has the. Oh, you had a nephew to play. Rick has North Greenville. Do you see what the
old mascot?
Are we allowed to say that, Rick? Are we allowed to say that word, or do we get banned?
It's objectively true. It's on
Crusaders.
His hat. Yeah, it's objectively on his hat.
They're not the Crusaders anymore. I was a Crusader. I was a Crusader when I graduated. You can't say that anymore. They're not what. No, it's. I don't know what it is.
The Trailblazers now, and the mascot's a fox.
Yeah.
This is great radio.
It's great radio.
This is great radio.
Just give Rick up.
This is what happens, when you're at Ingles Market, 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. Want to see you Tolos over here, especially those of you who live on the other side of Wade Hampton. We'll call you other siders, and Rick is an other sider for sure. But Cole, one of college football's most storied rivalries is right there on the brink of going bye-bye. When you think of in-conference rivalries, of course, you think of Michigan versus Ohio State. You think of maybe Clemson, Florida State. You think Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama. But out of conference, I'm not sure it gets any better than USC, Notre Dame, the battle for, what do they call it? The battle for the golden shillelagh, the jeweled shillelagh. And that may be coming to an end.
You started the segment by saying one of college football's most storied traditions. I thought you were going to say Curb Street Stall.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Curb Street being full of crap.
No, I don't mind Kirk. It's just the dog.
I've had a long-standing beef with Kirk now, going back almost 20 years.
This is bad. But I saw this on ESPN or somewhere, and you know what I immediately thought of? I immediately thought of the conversation you and I had a couple of weeks ago about our in-state rivalry. This is not good, what you're seeing happen right now.
So this is a quote from Lincoln Riley, asked about whether or not he would like USC to continue playing Notre Dame every year. He said, quote, "I would love to continue the series. I know it means a lot. Now, if you get into a position where you've got to make a decision on what's best for SC to help us win a national championship versus keeping the rivalry, shoot, then I think you got to look at it."
Yeah.
What he's saying is, if it's better for us to not play Notre Dame and to schedule an easy win, then I think we ought to do that, is what he's trying to say.
But, do they not care about what college football means and meant to so many people? This is one of those that if it dies, the sport will still be fine. We'll still watch. The ratings will still be okay. But, man, you've got to somehow, some way protect these old school traditions and matchups, right? I want to see this go. Right?
Everybody's trying to do what's best for themselves to make sure they can get their spot in the college football playoff. And Lincoln Riley knows they need to schedule wins because things are getting tough for SC playing in the Big Ten. They don't have all these cupcakes like they used to have in the Pac-12. Now they're playing in the Big Ten where it's real grown-up football.
But what's that thing about him? That he can't win? Like, you gotta take this off your schedule because you can't win big games.
I don't like seeing traditional games go goodbye. I don't like seeing that, Cole. But at the same time, no school should be forced into a schedule every year, locked into a schedule, because seeing different opponents on your schedule every year does make college football more interesting. And the problem for Notre Dame especially, and SC is roped into this, the way they schedule, I mean, they have all these out, like every week is a rivalry against somebody. And when you know that Notre Dame is far and away ahead of you, you gotta get them off the schedule so that you can get easy wins. He continues in his quote here saying, "There have been a lot of other teams to sacrifice rivalry games, as we get into this playoff structure, and if it changes or not, we're in this new conference. We're going to learn about this, and we go. Sometimes it's hard to follow people in their direct quotes. And the best track for winning a national championship, that's going to evolve. So again, it's a very informal conversation. The quote was not cleaned up to make it easier to understand what it is Lincoln's trying to say. You know, it sounded like he's sort of yammering and stammering through that answer. But again, he's saying we've got to do what's best for us to win a national championship, and that means scheduling wins, and it's hard for us to beat Notre Dame.
But you know what? It's all fine and well until it hits too close to home. That's the reality of it, right? Like fans of these fan bases, in particular Diesel, I'm sure they're not thrilled about it. I mean, what happens when this continues to happen and we get to a point down the road where Clemson and South Carolina are in the same situation? We're having the conversation about rivalry games not being on the schedule because, we care more about getting – Shane Beamer said it last year. He said it. I mean, he didn't say they were going to get rid of the rivalry game, but he said, and other coaches have said on record many times, that if the committee's not going to value what we thought the committee was going to value, why are we playing these games? I think, Diesel, you're going to see this as a trend where more and more coaches start to schedule, I don't want to say cupcakes, but easier opponents.
Well, doesn't absence make the heart grow fonder? I mean, think about this. We thought the college football world was experiencing a seismic travesty when Texas and Texas A&M stopped playing every year, when A&M went to the SEC. And we said, we've got to figure out, we've got to get this game back on the schedule. It took a little while, however many years as Texas A&M was in the SEC without Texas. All of a sudden they come in, and it feels like a massive deal to finally have these two teams back in the same conference again. It feels like, oh my God, we've been missing this for so long. Maybe that's what we end up seeing is them not playing every year anymore, but every other year, every third year, every fourth year. I mean, to me, it kind of gets boring if rivalries get lopsided. Why keep playing them?
Texter from the 344 says Notre Dame scheduled an easy win with Northern Illinois, and that didn't work out in their favor. The Gamecocks scheduled an easy win with a Citadel, and that didn't work. Yeah, that's a long time ago, JD. I think that's JD texting the show. The Citadel lost. You gotta let the Citadel loss go. That was under a different regime.
Notre Dame's won 7 out of 10, by the way, the last 10 years. Notre Dame has that. So, I mean, I could see why Lincoln Riley doesn't want Notre Dame on their schedule anymore because they're only winning 30% of the matchups.
It's not good. Like I said, what does that say about him as a coach? Spartanburg J on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Good to see you, Spartanburg J, in the conversation. All of you Tolos that are chiming in, whether it be on the text line or the phone lines, they're open as well, by the way, at 844-326-3663. Spartanburg J says, as I've discussed on different shows on this channel, I have a plan that would work to fix college football, but no one wants to listen. Nobody's going to listen. That's the problem, Spartanburg J. You know what? 100 people out there, 100 million people might have a plan, but you know what? There is no such thing anymore as a plan. It's not in this modern era of college football.
It's all unfortunately so self-serving, Cole. Everybody's doing what they need to do to get into the college football playoff conversation. And here's what scares me about this, Cole, is teams that fancy themselves contenders, especially those that find themselves in I don't even know what position rankings to say anymore because we had 12, and then we just heard like last week that the prevailing conversation is already saying jump this thing to 16. We just skipped past 14 because of course we did, right? I mean, we had 4, and everybody thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if we went to 8? Well, they skipped past 8 and went to 12. And now people are thinking, well, 12, this thing got too weird. We got to go to 14. Now they're going to jump 14 and they're going to go straight to 16. So what happens now with the teams that are constantly in that 17 to 22 range? Those are going to be the teams that have to schedule easy to make sure they can stack wins because that's the only way they can compete against the teams that are soundly inside that top 16. See, everybody's going to have to figure out their own scheduling philosophy. If you some teams are going to figure out they need to schedule tougher to ensure that they are safely inside that positioning. Some teams are going to have to schedule easy to make sure they can even be in the conversation to be in the top 16. I mean, we're all over the place, and tradition's going by the wayside.
It is, and that's why I said a year ago that Clemson should try their darndest to stay in the ACC, just because of the way college football is going with this current structure of the college football playoff. You know what's interesting about this conversation, Diesel? Being at the table, and when I say table, I mean college football playoff table. Being at the table of the playoff must mean so much that coaches don't care about anything else. Being at the table, for example, we've talked about this before, App State beating Michigan, being at that table is and was better for the program than if App State were to win a national championship at a smaller level, like if
Sure.
they were to drop down.
Nobody cares about the 3 FCS titles. They only care about the win against Michigan.
That's it, and that's because they were at the table. And being at the table benefited App State so much in that one game that's it's key. It's continuing to go farther and farther back in the past. But guess what? They were at the table, and it still benefits them to this day. Coaches are telling us, and college football fans, being at the table is all that matters. Now, I know that you want to win a game. I know you have to win a game or win a couple of games to Diesel beat in the national championship game, but Shane Beamer wants to be at the table, period. He doesn't care how he has to get there. Other coaches in the ACC don't care how. Hey, ask Dabo Swinney last year if he cared how he got there, having the craziness that no one would thought that Clemson was going to get in the ACC championship until a crazy ending to the season. Dabo didn't care. Dabo got there. He was at the table, and that's all that mattered.
Hey, what's good for South Carolina, since you brought him up? What's good for South Carolina and their fans in the out of conference, right? Your conference schedule is what it is. What's good for them would be scheduling Florida State, would be scheduling North Carolina, scheduling whoever else every single year, because you'd have two opponents that are in close geographic proximity. You'd have the North Carolina-South Carolina rivalry. You would have two teams, South Carolina and Florida State, that in theory, most years, not the last couple because Florida State, but you would have two pretty good football teams going head-to-head, basically just across state lines from one another. But that's not what Shane Beamer wants. He don't want to risk getting beat by even a pretty good Florida State when he could just go out there and mollywop, an Akron by 30.
No, that's true. And look, you mentioned who South Carolina could schedule out of conference. I think that's the conversation that's being had by all coaches right now, especially in the SEC. Look, there are pros and cons to being in the SEC. We all know what the cons are. It's tough to get a seat at the table, right? However, the pros are you don't have to be questioned, Diesel, at the end of the season. We all know what you did to get there. We all know that if you made your money, if you made your hay during the season and you got there, you're a legitimate team. You're a legitimate contender because of who you've played throughout the course of the year. Also, want to note real quick, Diesel, side note from this conversation, number 12, Clemson advances with a 6-1 win over the Hokies in the ACC tournament. So the Clemson Tigers on the baseball diamond win today in the ACC tournament. Diesel, Aiden Canuck pitched 6 effective innings. Dominic Listy had 4 RBIs in Clemson's 6-1 win over Virginia Tech. The Tigers, who upped its tournament record to 1-0, are now 42-15. The Hokies have dropped to 31-25, and Aiden Canuck, who's 9-1 on the season, earned the win. So, quick side note: Clemson is advancing with a nice 6-1 win over the Hokies in the ACC tournament.
Back to this Lincoln Riley, Southern Cal potentially ending their scheduling agreement with Notre Dame. Southern Cal has been awful under Lincoln Riley.
Awful.
Let's just be real.
I
about
thought
it.
last year was going to be better.
Yeah, they just have not been good. And Lincoln Riley, Cole, will probably go down as a destroyer of programs wherever he leaves. I mean, he left Oklahoma in shambles. He is leaving eventually. When he does leave, he will leave Southern Cal in shambles. He's going to ruin their tradition of playing Notre Dame every year. I guarantee you, Lincoln's saying, man, we got to schedule some wins. But whoever this next head coach is that comes in after him, is going to say the first thing we need to do is we need to get attendance back up in our stadium. We need to start scheduling Notre Dame again every year, because what fans want and what's good for fans has gone by the wayside. That's what this whole conversation is about, 100%. Right? Lincoln is doing what's good for him and what's going to get his team in the college football playoff. And most schools nowadays don't care what's best for the stands, what's best for fans, and putting them in the stands. Look at it, man. We see the average attendance numbers every single year are dropping in college football and have been for a long time, because it's not about fan service anymore. It's not about what's doing right for your paying customers. It's about how do we get the biggest television audience we can across the country.
And that's only because you've seen the stakes continue to rise year after year. Diesel, it's been trending this way. You're exactly right. The college football fans, whether you're a fan of Clemson or South Carolina, or whoever you're a fan of, whoever your team is, yeah, say that louder for the people in the back. The fans don't matter in the big picture, and as long as they're showing up and paying their dues, as long as they're contributing to the Garnet Trust, right? The NIL sources, the NIL funds. When I say fans don't matter, I mean big picture, because the coaches and the players, their objective is not centered around what the fans want to see. The players' objective is to what? Play at Division I level, get paid a lot of money, play for a good team. The coach's objective, they all have their different objectives to obviously, win a championship and so on and so forth. But yeah, you're right. What the fans' interest? Who cares about the fans' interest?
And to me, this all plays into itself. It's all a self-defeating prophecy. If a kid was trying to decide where he was going to go to school, and he was choosing between a few major programs, and Southern Cal was on it, he may look at the schedule and say, "Ooh, Notre Dame. I've always wanted to play at Notre Dame Stadium. I've always wanted to be a part of that matchup." And all of a sudden, that's not there anymore. A kid may say, "Well, I'm not going to Southern Cal anymore. What are you playing? You're going to play Fresno State instead of Notre Dame? Why would I want to go there?"
Yeah.
I mean, we have 2 good games a year. It's whoever it may be, a Michigan and Ohio State and Wisconsin, and everybody else is Indiana and Rutgers and Fresno State. I'm not going to go there anymore. It's not going to put me in big-time matchups where I can get noticed by NFL scouts and on the biggest possible stage. So I think, Cole, it's very short-sighted to take this away from fans. And, it's funny, we're seeing it more and more lately that Congress, especially state Congresses, are having to get involved to force teams inside states to play each other. I mean, what if we got to a point where a resolution had to be passed or a law had to be passed in South Carolina that Clemson and South Carolina have to play each other every year for the financial benefits of that matchup? So it would put both of those teams, especially South Carolina, if they go to a 9-game conference schedule, put them in a tight spot when it comes to scheduling. But I mean, if you're gonna let the children who are trying to stack the deck and set up some special outcome have control of things, and it's going to screw over the fans, then you have to get the adults in the room involved and pass laws.
Spartanburg Jay says, thanks, guys. I'm still at work. My district manager listens also. Luckily, he don't know I'm Spartanburg Jay. That's why I text and not call. That's good.
But he does have a plan, though.
That's funny.
Spartanburg Jay does have a plan.
That is really, really funny. What's not funny, though, Diesel, is what's been made of this entire Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese saga that we talked about on Monday. One thing happens, and it leads to a social media explosion with talking heads everywhere. We'll dive into that next right here on the Fan Out of State. Ingalls Markets, Diesel, in Greer on Locust Hill Road, 1524 Locust Hill Road. And we are supposed to be talking sports. This is a sports show. Rick and Greer stopped by, but instead we're all eating, what are these?
Apple fritters.
Oh, my God.
Apple fritters. These are the freshest,
Let me tell you something.
like softest apple fritters I've ever had.
Oh, my
I mean,
God.
they're always good. I've probably gotten apple fritters from at least 4 different Ingalls Markets all over the upstate. The ones that we're eating right now,
Those are good, man.
best ones I've ever gotten.
Just stop the show. John, throw us back. End it or something. Shout out to John, by the way, back in the Ingalls Market studio, new producer that you've met, I believe. You told those on the stream a couple of times right here on the Fan Upstate, but those were awesome. Those were good. Ingalls is the best. We've told you that. We're here in Greer until 7 o'clock tonight, so if you are in the Greer area, stop by. But bad news, we are now out of gift cards.
Oh, no.
Rick and Greer got the last one. Yep.
Oh,
we ran
you
through
have to
them
come
quick
fight 'em
today.
for it.
Yeah, we ran through them quick today.
Here's what we do. We got a lot of tables over here, Cole. We can set these things up with a hole in the middle and let Tolo come and fight Rick for that $5 card.
He said he wants to fight you for
You
that.
don't want that one. I've been cutting the grass in that hat.
You don't have one, Rick? You don't have a Fan Upstate hat? I thought you did. I really did. We've seen Rick at several locations. So, man, those are good stuff. If you're on the way home tonight looking for something for dinner, stop by your local Ingalls, and you can get a pretty good dinner right now. All the food's coming out pretty fresh over in the Ingalls Deli. Diesel, what do we make of this? What do we make of what's happening with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark? God forbid one basketball play be made on the court, and the next day we just move on. However, we can't have that. Every analyst, every talking head has, number one, given their opinion, which, by the way, is their job. However, when you see little feuds between Ryan Clark and Robert Griffin, it kind of just gets old, doesn't it? Was that where we are?
Yeah. I mean, look, how much money has ESPN spent in marketing over the last 4 or 5 years, trying to crack down on racism, trying to crack down on this and crack down on that, and then as soon as the opportunity presents itself, what do their hosts do? They bring up the race conversation and they try to make it about that instead of making it a basketball conversation. If you make it strictly a basketball conversation, it minimizes the off-court BS. And we're talking about 2 competitors playing a hard-nosed brand of basketball. But that's not what we're talking about. And so it just shows that the folks up at ESPN, the program directors there, are not doing their jobs when it comes to practicing what they preach.
Well, they don't care. That's what it boils down to.
They know they're getting clicks.
Right, and that's, we're talking about it right now, right? Like that's what people are doing. So in case you missed it, this week there was a heated exchange that unfolded between former NFL players Ryan Clark and Robert Griffin III over the ongoing rivalry between Clark and Reese. So we know what happened, Diesel, with the on-court incident between the Fever and the Sky. Clark committed a flagrant foul against Angel Reese. She reacted, had to be restrained by the teammates, right? Players got teed up. Incident became a focal in sports media. So then, after that, Robert Griffin III, in response, posted a video on social media asserting that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, suggesting that her actions stem from jealousy and resentment. He stated, Diesel, that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. It's staring us all right in the face, but people are afraid to say it. Ryan Clark then responded to RG3 and criticized his remarks, arguing that they lacked understanding of the challenges that Black women face in sports. He said on his podcast, Clark suggested that RG3's perspective might be limited due to his interracial marriage. So a black man, a black man doesn't have the proper perspective coming from Ryan Clark because he's married to a white woman, is what he's saying. And I quote, "You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you have been married to white women." And that's where we are. That's where, in my mind, Ryan Clark just does not understand what a true journalist is supposed to do. I think that's embarrassing on the part of Ryan Clark.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Ryan Clark is stopping as short as he possibly can from calling RG3 and Uncle Tom. I mean, it feels like that's where he's trying to go with this, and he's trying to say you can't be objective as a black man because you're married to a white lady. So you just simply can't understand, right? I mean, that is truly pathetic from Ryan Clark, and it shocks me that ESPN has not fired him for it. I mean, how often are you going to let this happen? And let's bring in John. Are you taking a phone call or are you trying to speak to us?
I think he's talking to somebody on the phone right now. We'll see.
We'll figure out who this is on the phone.
But you know what though? Like, it doesn't really surprise me that this is happening on ESPN. It doesn't. I mean, this has been ESPN. There are no guidelines. There are no journalistic or ethical rules, Diesel, that are laid out for some of these journalists. They just say whatever they think.
Their job is to get ratings.
Yeah.
Their job is to spark conversation. And I know ESPN probably has the ability to measure ratings essentially in real time or on a day-to-day basis. And they can figure out if this is sparking additional ratings for them. And if that's the case, they're going to let it continue to happen.
And I'm guarantee you it is. I guarantee you. I guarantee it is. I just don't understand, though. I don't understand, number one, why Ryan Clark decides to make it personal with family members of Robert Griffin III. Diesel, he responded to Ryan Clark. He said, "There's a line you don't cross in life," and Ryan Clark sprinted past it. So this feud between them, people have called classless, divisive, gross, which I think those are all excellent terms to describe it. This is an incident on the court, Diesel and Tolos, that has sparked broader discussions when it comes to race and gender as well, because Ryan Clark made it a gender thing with Angel Reese, saying that people don't know what black women go through who play in sports. So, look, I'm not here on this show today to say that we have to act like we can't empathize with people of different races, because we 100% should. We should, but it comes a point in time in my mind, Diesel, where if we're going to continue to ask people to not be racist, to change and really view people as people, when you continue to come up with crazy off-the-cuff narratives that involve somebody's wife, and you're telling a black man that he can't comment because he's married to a white woman, I just think that shows how bad journalism, or how low the bar has fallen in the journalism world.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a point of highlighting the lowest hanging fruit every single time. I mean, this feels like something Ryan knew would garner a tremendous amount of backlash. I mean, at this point, anybody with half a brain would step back and say, you know what, Robert, I was wrong. My initial reaction, I went to a place that is unprofessional and inappropriate. I shouldn't have done that. Please accept my sincerest apologies. But no, he's doubling down. He's doubling down on this, and it really is. It's just sad.
Coach,
it's sad where we are.
Coach Mitch on the YouTube stream says Ryan Clark made that comment on his podcast, not on ESPN. Still took it a little too far, and my apologies if I misspoke there and said it was on ESPN. It doesn't matter if he says it on ESPN or MTV. Like, you said it, right? And that's where we are. When people who listen to the show, Diesel, who don't come from a journalistic background, they may not sometimes understand what you and I are talking about when we have these type of conversations. But you go through classes, and this is why I give certain people and certain outlets a hard time for dumb things they do on Twitter throughout the course of the year. But you go through courses called media ethics, and which, by the way, has completely gone out the door in today's world, especially with the likes of Pat McAfee. But you do take courses going through school in journalism and broadcast media and communications on media ethics. And, I'm telling you, man, 2025, Diesel, in today's world, I would go as far to say there's no such thing anymore as media ethics.
Well,
It's gone.
You have to have the buck stops with whoever owns the media outlet that the person is on, and ESPN has to fire Ryan Clark for this. Otherwise, they become the network that goes from talking out of one side of their mouth saying, "Hey guys, this is divisive and we can't have this," to being the network that intentionally leaves somebody on who fans these flames because it gets them additional ratings.
Yeah.
It's being two-faced. It's being disingenuous. It's talking out of both sides of your mouth. ESPN has, if they're going to take a stance, take a stance. And
they won't. They won't.
People are texting in and they're saying ESPN has become the race baiting network, and there's a lot of truth to that. And there's a reason why people are forming a more and more negative opinion about the network.
Texter also says on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, Ryan Clark has always had weird takes about Josh Allen and tried to make the MVP race with Lamar more than football. It's a pattern with him. Texter from the 803, 100% correct. I watched that exact segment a couple of months ago during football season when him and, man, I can't remember who the other talking head was, Diesel, but it was an argument similar to this on ESPN about the MVP conversation, and race was involved. To your point, ESPN's not going to do a single thing. They don't have the kahunas. They don't have standards.
Because the real journalists work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Ryan Clark is on television to be an entertainer, right? And for better or worse, we are all very entertained by this story. And being entertained doesn't necessarily mean we all have to agree. We are entertained because we are all up in arms and having this conversation about this, right? His job is to get ratings. His job is to spark viewership and bring viewers to his show and to the network.
Let's go to the phone lines. Who do we have, John? On the
looks like we have Fred in Spartanburg. Fred in Spartanburg, welcome to the show.
Frederick in Spartanburg.
What's up, Fred?
Thank you. How you guys doing today?
Good, man.
Hey, so I just came in on the tail end of you guys' conversation, but and I hadn't seen the whole context, so maybe I shouldn't be commenting on it, but I really didn't find what Ryan Clark said that offensive. If it is true that Robert Griffin, both of his wives were white, and he thinks that he can't relate to the plight of black women because of it, I mean, I don't think that's saying anything bad about his wife.
So you don't think Ryan Clark?
Like have you ever been in an interracial relationship?
So my question to you don't think Robert?
Have you ever been in a? Mm-hmm.
Say that again. I'm sorry, Fred. Say it again.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to ask you.
No. So I was going to use an example, right? So if you yourself, personal-wise, had a friend, right?
Yeah.
And your friend was in an interracial relationship.
Fan upstate.
Right.
What's your name?
And he said to you, that you never been in an interracial relationship, so you wouldn't understand what I'm going through. Would that be wrong?
No, it wouldn't be wrong. So I understand where you're coming from, Fred, but my only thing is Robert Griffin III is a black man and has been a black man his entire life. You don't think Robert Griffin III's ever been around black women?
So I would agree with you. That I agree with you 100%. So I'm not saying that he could or couldn't. I'm just really talking about the statement that Ryan Clark made. In addition to that, though, where's the outrage about him labeling, Angel Reese, that she hates him, and anybody that doesn't see it? I mean, again, it started with the outlandish comments by him, and Ryan Clark was simply defending and making a statement that maybe he don't understand because he's labeling Angel Reese saying that she hates this person because whatever reason. Again, I didn't see the whole clip or read the thing, so I'm not exactly sure what was said. I just don't see it.
But Frederick, isn't it incredibly short-sighted as Cole got to his point? Just because Robert Griffin III has been married to two white women doesn't mean that he's never spent time around black women, around black athletes. Obviously, his family. We don't know if he's dated black women in the past prior to his marriages. So to say that because the person that you're married to right now is a white woman, you don't get to comment and you can't be objective about this conversation is patently false. And it's I don't think it's even relevant to the conversation. So bringing up something that's
listen,
not relevant.
It's really not. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you to that point that it's not necessarily relevant, and that doesn't mean that Robert Griffin can't have an opinion, right?
Right.
So, the comment by Ryan Clark was definitely off base, but I don't think it was necessarily so disrespectful. It may be his opinion that because you haven't did this, maybe I don't know Robert Griffin's background. I don't know, I didn't even know he was married to white women. Not
Right.
that it really matters.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm just saying the outrage about it just seems short-sighted.
No, Fred, really good.
By the same token, like I said, where's the outrage over his comments he was making about Angel Reese?
Hey, Fred, really good call, by the way. We got to go to the next caller because that was a really good call. Really enjoyed it. Only thing I'll say before we go to Preston and Simpsonville Diesel, if this is the case, let's make a new rule right now today. If Ryan Clark did not play the sport that he's talking about on ESPN or his podcast, he can no longer comment on it. No longer.
He can't
because
comment.
that's where we are.
Yeah, he can't comment on what basketball players are doing.
He didn't
can't
play.
comment on golf. Can't comment on baseball.
Only football. Only NFL. That's it. That's where we are. That's where we. Let's go.
Why couldn't you say, well, you've been out of college football? I don't know how long he's been out. 15 years. You've been out of college football 15 years. You can't understand the college football landscape today because you didn't play in the transfer portal at NIL era, so you don't get to talk about the transfer portal like that.
Preston in Simpsonville wants to weigh in. What's up, Preston?
How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Great.
Good. So basically, I was just calling in to say exactly what the last guy said. I just really don't see an issue with him stating what he stated. I mean, if he's dated or married to two white women before, I just don't see them really going home and talking to his wife about black women problems.
Well, Preston, I think it boils down
I just don't see the
where it
issue with
boils
him
down
stating
to is professional integrity. There's no reason in a professional context to bring up a player or a fellow media person's wife. Like, why is that relevant? I mean, why? What gives him the right?
I completely understand that. I think he just brought it up just to give some context on what the other guy was talking about.
Preston, my only comment to you, Preston, would be, Preston, real quick, I want to ask you this. By the way, I appreciate the phone call if we get disconnected. I want to ask you real quick. When you talk about this situation with race and sport, everybody says, whether it be politics or race, let's have the conversation with each other respectfully, and let's build on making this a better world, right? Let's get to a better spot in society. Did simple question, did Ryan Clark's public comments move the conversation forward in a positive direction?
That's a great question. I don't really think it moved it forward or backwards. I mean, all it did was just get us talking. I feel like online.
It's good radio, right?
Just taking sides at this point.
Preston, thanks for the call, man.
Appreciate you. Preston, call back anytime.
man.
Frederick, same to you. Call back anytime. Both of you, fantastic phone calls. We want to hear from you as much as possible. I mean, this conversation, while it is, not always the most constructive thing, is it's worth having. It's good radio. So.
And the main thing is, though, I want to say shout out to Fred and Preston. You're supposed to have these conversations and be able to have them respectfully. And Fred, Preston, both, and to those on the text line's blowing up as well that are being respectful and adults about it. Y'all are awesome. Really, really good calls, Fred and Preston.
When we come back, let's hit our daily wires. Cole, a lot of buzz happening in the sports world. We'll cover it all next right here on the Fan Upstates.
with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
Such a fantastic conversation live on the text line. I mean, you guys are buzzing about this topic. Of course, I mean, that means we're going to have to bring it up and talk about it again tomorrow, Cole, because this is just it's such a big story. It's worth bringing up again and again. But let's get to our daily wires. This is the buzz happening around the sports world. South Carolina's long nightmare is over after they fell to Florida 11-3 in the SEC tournament yesterday. They finished the season all in at 28-29, which marks the most losses in a season in program history. Clemson faced Virginia Tech today in the ACC tournament and won 6-1. So Clemson will advance.
Big win.
Yes,
real quick, can I read this text? A really good text from Lefty Tiger that we missed earlier about Clemson baseball. I thought this was really interesting. Lefty Tiger, if you're still listening, asked Clemson fans, would we be happy not winning the ACC tournament if we beat NC State tomorrow, or are we mad not bringing home the hardware? I would answer by saying win a couple games, get some momentum, and that's all. You want to bring home the hardware, but it doesn't really – it's not the end-all, be-all.
Yeah, and they will face NC State next. The Atlanta Braves lost last night to the Washington Nationals by a score of 5-3. It drops them back to an even 24-24. Nationals rookie Dylan Cruz hit the ultimate game-winning home run in the second inning off of Spencer Strider to snap a 3-3 tie, and that's all they needed to get the win. Riding a 3-game win streak, the Spartanburgers returned to Fifth Third Park with a crack at the team tied for the South Division lead. The Rome Emperors in the season opener last night, Dylan Dreiling mashed his 4th home run of the season, but ultimately fell in a final score of 6-3. The Spartanburgers are 20-20, 500 in their inaugural season. Oklahoma City Thunder routed the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially in the second half. 114-88, game 1 final score. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31 points for Oklahoma City. He was incredible.
He is not only incredible, he is the league's most valuable player as of today. He's been so good, man. I just don't think people have talked about him enough.
Game 2 is on Thursday, tomorrow. The Florida Panthers jumped out to a 1-0 Eastern Conference Finals Series lead on the Carolina Hurricanes with a 5-2 drubbing last night in Raleigh. Carolina outpaced the Panthers 33-20 in shots, 50-47 in hits, 42-28 in faceoffs, and yet still got pounded last night by the Florida Panthers. Cole, this is a wild one. Buford High School in Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta, is completing construction on its brand new $62 million stadium, complete with luxury suites, a full press box, and a massive concourse with a trophy case. This is a school, I know you cover some really good high school football here in the upstate, but they are taking football to another level in high school. They have their own JV stadium on campus, which is wild. They have 6 practice fields. Buford was the number 3 team in the state in Georgia in 2024. By comparison, the brand new Burns Stadium is part of a $30 million project.
And those schools in Texas would look at what Buford, Georgia is doing and laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, really. They'd say, oh, that's really cute, guys. That's really cute,
nice.
You Wolves. Yeah, I mean, look what we're doing. That's unreal. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. $62 million for a football stadium. I'm telling you, man, I saw some big ones in Texas, and it was they're unreal. They're unreal.
It's essentially building a brand new state-of-the-art FCS level college program.
Or bigger.
Yeah. Detroit Lions have withdrawn their proposal to change the NFL playoff seeding. The now withdrawn rule would have guaranteed only the division winner and each conference with the best record a home playoff game. The rest of the playoff field would have been seeded strictly by record, but that is going bye-bye. Running back Ashton Genty says the Raiders coaches want him to ditch his Halloween stance that he likes to take in the backfield pre-snap. Ashton likes to stand straight up with his hands by his side, similar to the way Halloween's Michael Myers stands, but they say, nope, we want you to be in more of an athletic stance.
Who was that stance? The stance that you referenced?
Mike Myers. They call it the Halloween stance.
That is great.
I didn't make that term up.
That is so good. That is really good. I've never heard that before.
It's coming back, Cole. The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile race is set in the inaugural Weenie 500 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, featuring 6 Wienermobiles representing different regional hot dogs.
What in the world are we talking about?
Yeah. They've done this before, though. This event marks the first competitive race for the Wienermobile fleet in over a decade. So they took it away for a while, but they brought it back, and everybody's really, really
Wow, how about
excited. That's going to do it for our Daily Wires. A lot more to get to, but we just didn't have enough time to touch it all.
Clemson softball. We've talked a lot about Clemson baseball, but what about Clemson softball? Some audio from their press conference today and the power hour, the final hour of the show, hour number 4. That's next. It's the final hour, the power hour of Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Wednesday, Hump Day edition of the show. We're live at Ingalls Markets in Greer, 1524 Locust Hill Road. Tolos, we're sorry, but we don't have any more gift cards for you. Tolos have been awesome today, coming by here and grabbing those gift cards up, man, like hotcakes. So, so good to see. I'll start naming them, Diesel. I'll forget half of them. But April Mosley, Todd earlier in the show, Rick and Greer. Obviously, you can't forget about Rick and Greer. So many. I told you I shouldn't name them because I'll forget 5 or 6. But man, this has been a popular spot for the Tolos today. Coming by and seeing us at Ingalls. I love it. A lot of fun as we are here until 7 o'clock. Really, really good show so far today. The Atlanta Braves last night, Tolos, in case you missed it. By the way, we're going to get some audio here regarding Clemson, but the Atlanta Braves last night fell to the Washington Nationals. Diesel mentioned it in the Daily Wires. 5-3 last night, Diesel. The Nationals defeat the Braves. The Braves back to 24-24, a 500 baseball team. Washington was just the better team last night. 3 first-inning runs that the Atlanta Braves gave up. Spencer Strider, not his best stuff last night. 4.1
He just
innings.
came back.
He did. 4.1 innings pitched. He gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, and all 4 of them were earned, by the way. 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, and 1 home run. Just not a great night for Strider, giving up. You're right, he did come back. If he wouldn't have given up 3 in the first inning, maybe it wouldn't has been as bad. But Atlanta Braves on the losing end of things last night, Matt Kraft, even though, let's see, is Matt Kraft talking about the Braves today? No, I guess not. Guess not.
He's talking about the bug that was flying in front of my face, and he's cracking jokes, Cole, that you're over there breaking wind, and I'm having to waft it away.
No, not today.
Didn't
not
happen
today.
that way, Matt.
Braves Nationals postponed today. Rain in Washington, so the Braves will not play today. In the MLB right now, the Royals lead the Giants 8-2, and the other game happening right now is the Guardians and Twins. The Guardians lead the Twins 2-1. Diesel, we have spent a lot of time talking about Clemson baseball, South Carolina baseball earlier, Paul Maneri. We had a great conversation with Matt Smith, Smitty, Sports Talk Media Network. But how about Clemson softball, South Carolina softball as well, both of them in the Super Regionals this weekend. Let's hear some audio from today's presser. I did, by the way, just for those Tolos out there listening that may be Clemson fan, I did earlier in the week ask and request for Clemson's softball coach, John Rittman, but because of their travel schedule and everything they had going on, couldn't get John Rittman on. But here is some audio that John, our producer, has from the presser earlier today. John, go ahead and hit it, man.
Certainly very excited to be at the Austin Super Regional. Really like the way our team's playing right now. Obviously, to win a tough regional at home is an exciting experience, and moving on to the next round is always a great opportunity for our program. We've only been in existence for 6 years. The first year was COVID in 2020, so we've only played 5 full seasons of softball. So to be to win or be in 5 straight regionals and win 3 of those to advance to super regionals in 5 years is pretty remarkable. So I have to pinch myself every now and then to make sure this is real. But I love our team. This has been a fun year to coach. This team has been awesome both on and off the field. I think the experiences that we've had this year are going to stay with us for a lifetime. But it's a great opportunity for us to get to our ultimate goal, and that's to win another championship. And it's certainly going to be against a very tough Texas team on the road.
Okay,
so we're going to have to earn everything we get here. And
how much time's left?
Again, excited for this opportunity. I love our team. I love the way we're playing right now.
Looks like there's like 8 minutes left. It's a long interview.
Well, I think it was 8 total. So just let us know when it's getting close to the end of it.
Yeah.
Coach, looking at that Texas lineup, especially what they did last weekend, what stands out about them?
Well, I mean, they're a complete team. I mean, pitching staff, offense, defense.
Texas softball.
There's a reason they've been to.
God, they don't
to
play till 9
championship
o'clock
series of
tomorrow
World-
night. I guess
World
that's 8
Series,
o'clock
and
their time.
There's a reason that they're playing this weekend. They're a complete team. They're well coached. And it's going to be a big challenge, but they have speed, they have power, they hit for average. So really good team, and like I said, well coached, and there's a reason why they're here.
Mike White.
Similar vein on that. What stands out about Tegan Caban?
Well, first of all, she's very talented. She's seems to me like in all the big games, she comes through, she holds her composure, nothing really rattles her. She's only a sophomore, so we're going to have to deal with her for another 2 years too. But she's just a great pitcher. She's young. She's got the pitches. She changes speeds, hits spots, and that's what makes her so tough.
One thing I
Coach,
noticed,
you've done some of your
this
best
is
work on
not
the road. You won
showing
your
up
first ranked
in-
series on the road at Stanford. You beat number 1 for the first time on the
Cool
road.
edit.
You beat Florida State away from home for the first time.
If it's not showing up,
What
in
is it
cool
about
edit,
this
do you
team
have it
that has
in
allowed you
all
guys to
4
maybe
of the
play your
little
best
colored
softball
buttons?
away from home in these tough environments?
I think the biggest thing is they've been able to
Okay.
play
So
their
Sam.
game, and
So like
they're
the computer
experienced, very
slider
talented
that's playing
team.
this
So
audio
we-
right now,
we
all
look at
4 of
things
the
as
buttons above the
opportunities,
slider should be
and,
lit up.
This is another opportunity, to
Okay.
do something that people may not expect you to
yeah,
do.
because
win a
that
tough
wasn't. I just
ranked
put the
series on
aux
the road,
in.
beat the number 1 team at the time, Tennessee, on the road, and I think our team just loves to play the game, and they love the challenges that lie ahead of them, and got a lot of experience. So
Technically, it could just be copied
been in
into
big
the
games,
recording,
and
the
our
actual
freshmen are not,
audio of this.
'cause
Because that's-
if you have
that's you-
if you have the original
since you really
file,
didn't talk
prove that
over
this
it,
year.
for the purpose of the podcast.
Yeah, back here. Coach, obviously we all saw what happened to Texas A&M this weekend, a big upset like that. How do you maybe talk about that with your team, or what do you think that does when, that kind of shook the whole college softball landscape?
Yeah, I'm sure our team was watching just like I was, and you never really expected. But as a coach, one of the things that we preach
Have
all
just
the
under
time
5
is the
minutes
game
left of
doesn't know
this.
who's supposed to win. You have to go out and play the game. The game's not won on paper. It's not won on, what you've done in the past. It's about what you're doing in this game. And one of our goals is to simplify everything. And we want to win every pitch and every inning. And if you do that, you give yourself a chance. And for Liberty to go in there and pull off an upset, they had to put a complete game together to do that, and to beat them 3 times is pretty remarkable. But that's why you play the game.
Alex, you're a senior, right? Abby, are you? Okay, so what do you guys tell? I mean, you have some freshmen in key positions. What do you tell the younger players coming into an environment like this weekend?
Yeah, we have some younger players, but as we've said, we're battle tested. We faced a lot of really great teams this whole season. So I think that's really prepared us going into this type of environment. We already know it's going to be a tough opponent with Texas, going to be their home crowd. So we know that going in, but we really just lean on each other. We have, seniors and upperclassmen with some good experience and postseason experience, and we have freshmen who just bring the energy and excitement and newness to the team. So we just lean on each other for support.
Yeah, I think the big thing is pressure is a privilege. Being able to get to this point, like there's only 16 teams left, so let's make the most out of it, play with freedom, and have fun doing it.
Just over 3 minutes left.
There we go. For the players, describe this team, and when did this team you feel like
Must be in the back of the room or something.
you made this, started going on this run that you had this year?
This team's gritty. That's the big word that I've used all year to describe us. I think we pull out wins in different ways, and we continue to just show that there's a million ways to win a game, and we haven't even touched half of them. So I think with that in mind, just knowing, like I just said,
Just
like, go
over
out
2
there,
minutes
win the
left.
game, have fun, And Coach Rittman said, like, our goal is to win innings and see how many you can win and get on the field. Like, and if you're not winning, let's try to find a way to tie them. And that gives us the fighting chance. So,
yeah, for me, I just think that this team brings a lot of energy. That's what I think of when I think of Clemson softball is energy and excitement. And then for me, I think a turning point or a big game was the Cal game coming back and walking it off at home. To me, that just really propelled us into all of these extra inning wins and really tough opponents like that we've beaten. I think that was kind of the turning point in my eyes of just believing that we can be really great teams.
And then, Coach, what did you like from the regional win that stood out that you liked that you did? And what are some areas that you think you needed to improve on this weekend?
Yeah, Eric, good question. I think
Just about a minute and a
anytime
half
you
left of
win a
this.
regional, you have to play really well. And I said this earlier that our regional, I think somebody said it had the most parity of any regional in the country. And you know, we had to come back against USC Upstate, the 1-4 game, and that's a lot of pressure on the higher seed, the first game of the tournament. And Upstate took the lead twice in that game, and we had to come back, and then we blew it open late. And then we had to win a pitching duel. Lauren Boyd, the senior from Northwestern, who's, you know, been one of the hottest pitchers in the country, came in and you know, we proved that we could win a 1-0 game. I thought there was a couple times in that game where we hit the ball really hard and didn't have anything to show for it. But to have the composure, to keep them off the board, we had to play really good defense. And then to win it like we did on a suicide squeeze was pretty special. And then in the
Have about
Kentucky
one more
game,
minute left.
you know,
It's
you're
at 8,
playing for a regional
9, it ends at
championship. There's a lot
9:53,
on the
and
line, and that's
video's
I
at
think where
8:15.
we really
So
relied on our leadership, our upperclassmen, to set the tone for the day. And I thought we played our best softball in that game. For us, you know, we don't have strikeout pitchers, so we're going to have to play really good defense, and we're going to have to get the timely hitting against good pitching like Texas has this weekend. You know, it's if you put a crooked number up on the board, you'll take that. But we know we're going to have to keep their offense down, and we're going to have to get some timely hits against their good pitching.
That is audio from John Rittman of Clemson softball, also players from Clemson softball as well from today's presser previewing the series against Texas Diesel. Thursday, 9 o'clock first pitch. We kind of talked about this the other day with South Carolina having to face UCLA. Obviously, they're getting them at home. Clemson's having to go on the road when it comes to softball. But, man, you get to these super regionals, and you start talking about teams like UCLA and Texas, as good as Clemson and South Carolina both are, this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, you heard Coach Rittman there say we don't really have strikeout pitchers, and that's going to be an issue for Clemson. Texas has a couple of big-time home run hitters on this team. Reese Atwood had 18 on the season. Katie Stewart had 15 home runs on the season. They have run ruled 22 times over the course of this season. They can put the ball in play, and they can hit it over the wall. So John Rittman's defense got to do the best they can to keep that ball down low and keep it inside the park. But, I mean, we've talked about it so many times, man. We love watching college softball because it's so high energy, so fast-paced, and this is going to be a must-watch series.
And you mentioned how tough it's going to be on Clemson from a pitching standpoint. Texas is an offensive powerhouse, Diesel. I mean, what they've done this season, they just set a school record in the playoffs with 6 home runs in that commanding 16-4 win over Michigan during the Austin Regional. Katie Stewart had 2 home runs, bringing her season total to 15. Reese Atwood, you mentioned her, team-leading 18 home runs. They've hit 79 home runs this season. Think about that. That's third in Texas softball history. 79 home runs. And then you talk about their pitchers. They have a sophomore pitcher, Tegan Caven, who has been the cornerstone of their success this year, multiple SEC Pitcher of the Week. She had a shutout against UCF in the regional final. She is a huge contributor to this team's success. And, talk about transition to the SEC, a very dominant softball. It's dominant in every sport. Diesel, in their inaugural season in the SEC, they're 49-10 overall, 16-8 in conference. Preseason polls had Texas as the top pick in the SEC. And when you talk about those kind of players, man, and them joining this tough conference, they haven't skipped a beat. They've been awesome. It's going to be a huge test for not only Clemson, but for the Gamecocks as well. My only thing is for South Carolina, they're not having you on a plane. I know you don't play the game on a plane, but that matters, doesn't it? I mean,
it does. It does. And for Clemson, the problem is what they need to have the best possible chance to win this super regional series against Texas is the thing that they don't have, right?
Yeah.
They need elite pitching. So their pitching is going to have to be otherworldly. And, maybe this is one of those things that teaches John Rittman, not that he doesn't already know this, that he's got to go out and get himself some elite pitching in years going forward, because without it, once you get into super regional play, you can't necessarily out offense everybody. You got to have good pitching. And Smitty brought up that very point as well when he was talking about South Carolina baseball not having the pitching.
Yeah, and that's where we'll go. That's where we'll go, Diesel. Smitty, you mentioned that interview with him. Sports Talk Media Network next, right here on the Fan Upstate.
started playing it yet? Because I can't hear it.
ACC. To talk about that and a lot more, we bring on good friend of the show, Smitty.
So we got about 20 minutes. I'll set a timer on my phone for 20 minutes to let us know to be back in plenty
Yeah,
of
it's
time.
23 minutes total.
To Clemson baseball.
I'll set a timer for 20 to make sure I'm back in plenty of time.
Breaking news from ESPN.
Right.
Gilgeous Alexander
20 minutes on
wins
the phone,
the
though. I don't have a 20-minute timer.
MVP
Hey, Siri.
most valuable player.
Set a 20-minute timer.
Joins two other
All right, we'll be back.
Oklahoma City Thunder as players to win
Okay.
the MVP.
All
Smitty
right.
starting this off with a little trivia. Who does SGA join as the other two Thunder who have also won the MVP award?
Well, it's got to be Russell Westbrook, the year he averaged a triple-double. And I'm going to say Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that was easy. That was easy. Smitty's too good. He's
He
too
just knows
smart.
that. He just knows all. He's a smart guy.
Smitty knows all. Can you change your Twitter handle to Smitty knows all ball?
No, because when you do that, then people say, "Oh yeah," and I didn't know if you were going to try to trace it back to.
You can just message me on the phone. I'm going to step out to the restroom real quick. Be right back.
Sonic player has ever won MVP. I know Dennis Johnson won Finals MVP for the Sonics one year, but I don't know that a Sonic player ever won the regular season MVP.
Well, if he did that call, he'd have to fight Rob Brown for the Twitter handle because Rob knows ball, and then we'd have to have Rob and Smitty have a know-it-all.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you say, like, if you have to say you're a humble guy, maybe you're not real. Smitty's always the guy that says, I'm the real humble guy. Usually the humble guy usually doesn't have to tell everybody he's humble, right?
All right, I'll make this prediction. I'll say something that's wrong before I'm off the phone with you. How about that?
Well, that's a given on this show.
Join the
Smitty.
club.
Yeah, welcome. South Carolina, mercy killing maybe at the hands of the Florida Gators yesterday. Their season is officially over. Paul Maneri's first season in Columbia is done. We've seen reports now over the last 24 hours that even though it was still up in the air, we all figured Paul wasn't going anywhere. We just keep getting more and more confirmation that Paul is going to stay there in Columbia. So now looking forward into next year, Smitty, in your opinion, just how short is the leash that Jeremiah Donati is putting on him? Is it going to be, if things aren't going well by the Clemson series, if they're not going well by mid-season or mid-SEC play, or do you think Paul ends up getting the whole 20, 25, 26 season?
I hope not, though.
I do think he will be the head coach all of next season. And I always have to say this. I think we have to be very careful. Is this Donati's decision all alone, or is this the Board of Trustees' decision? Because I'm not so sure in this era, especially with the money that's being doled out for NIL and stadium improvements across the board, I don't know that ADs are what ADs once were. I think they're closer to what we have like general managers in sports, but there's also, quote, an owner. In this case, that's the Board of Trustees. And I just want to always make that clarification. If Maneri makes it through next year, I'm not so sure that Donati had a say in it. I think what has a say in it is this was all decided before Maneri took the job. You have to take the job for multiple seasons. You have to commit to each other for that because the kids have to know what they're getting into. And you ask, will he be there? I think he will be there all of next season. But if this is going to be if Gamecock fans are going to take down any less antacid in 2026 than they did in 2025, they have got to get a load of pitching. And I don't know if that's going to be transfer portal or he thinks they've got eyes on some young players, some arms that will come in and make a difference. And you always have to factor in that there could be pitching injuries, which is what ended Mark Kingston's time at South Carolina. We'll never know what it would have been, his era would have been like without all of the injuries his players sustained for one reason or another. And Maneri went through some of that this year, but the pitching is just not SEC level. And that has to change. I was just going over some of Clemson's numbers here at the ACC Championship and watching some of the other teams, and it always comes down to pitching, right? The teams that are here and are going to be here are the teams that pitch better, and you've got teams like Cal that won 14-12 over Wake Forest earlier today. Does anybody think Cal's winning this tournament? No. They just gave up a dozen runs to Wake Forest. They're going to give up a dozen runs to who they play next, Georgia Tech. And you just can't win like that consistently. So whoever's here at this tournament on Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be because of their pitching, and that's ditto for Hoover, Alabama in the SEC tournament.
We're talking to Matt Smith, Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network, right here on the Fan Upstate. You can watch the show live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Also, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, 97.7 FM in Greenville on the free Odyssey app. Smitty, you are Clemson, Virginia Tech, bottom of the sixth. The Tigers have a 5-1 lead. According to the latest reports and scores that I have seen. Correct me if I'm wrong on that score, since you're there and you've got your eyes on it, and talk about Clemson with a little bit of a rough landing to the 2025, the ending of the season, if you will, even though they did get a sweep last weekend, and what you think this team can be in the postseason.
Yeah, it's been Jekyll and Hyde, certainly. I think they're 5-5 in their last 10. But they've won 3 straight coming into the ACC tournament because of, again, level of competition. And Virginia Tech is the 12th seed, and they're beating up on them today. Aiden Canuck, who didn't give up any hits in his last start, 7+ innings in the last game he pitched in the regular season, he's only given up 3 hits today as Clemson leads 5-1. And he's been terrific. He gave up a leadoff homer and pretty much nothing since. And Dominic Leasty has been the offensive hero, 2 for 3, 4 RBIs for Clemson, including a 2-run homer in the first. I expect them to hold on and win this game over Virginia Tech. And then they've got, if that happens, then they've got NC State tomorrow, a team that swept the Tigers just a couple of weeks back, and a team that was playing really well right up until the end of the season. They had a chance to win the ACC regular season championship with a close, a good strong series against Stanford. They didn't do it, and they fell all the way to the 4th seed. So, in baseball, it is often, and we just talked about the importance of pitching, who's throwing today and what arms do you have available in the bullpen. And they're all 19, 20, 21 years old, so you don't know how they're going to react. So where's Clemson going? I don't know, but I think if I look at them throughout the season, I just think this is a Clemson team that really excels at home against lesser competition, and they struggle when they play the best teams, especially on the road. And everybody does, obviously, right? Yeah, everybody does. But Clemson, I think, went through a portion of in the middle part of the season, and they feasted. Instead of winning two out of 3 against some of the lower tier ACC teams, they were pulling off sweeps and beating them up and really piling on wins, especially at home at Doug Kingsmore. So, do I think this is a true College World Series contender? I don't. I expect either an SEC team to win the College World Series in Omaha or North Carolina could challenge. But, hey, like I said, I could be wrong because I knew I'd say something wrong before this is over with. But if I'm trying to handicap this race, I like Arkansas a lot. I like Texas a lot in Omaha. Even Tennessee is playing really well recently. And they're all battle-tested, and North Carolina may be the best team here, even though Georgia Tech's the top seed. North Carolina is very, very good. I don't think Clemson has enough, although they could get Ethan Darden back for the regional. I don't think they're good enough based on the best teams that they've played. When they're at their best, I don't think they're good enough to beat Texas, Arkansas, and Tennessee. But we'll see. Time will tell.
Smitty, let's talk about that word expectations there for just a second and go back just a little bit to the South Carolina discussion. In no time in sports have we ever seen coaches directly affected by fans the way that they can be right now with NIL collectives and money that is out of their hands, out of the coaches' hands, and their ability to spend and go get guys on their team. What are you hearing from the folks around South Carolina's program when it comes to the level of giving that the Garnet Trust and others involved are going to be willing to give to Paul Maneri. And that's maybe is a really tough thing to gauge, but man, if people feel like they're wasting their money throwing it at a lame duck coach, then it's going to turn him into a lame duck coach because they can't get the talent that they need. So expectations or any nuggets that you're hearing, what have you heard?
I'm not hearing anything on that front, but to your point, not only is Paul Maneri competing against every other team in the state, every other team in the SEC, he's even competing for dollars in his own athletic department, because I could see people wanting to earmark that money for Shane Beamer's program or Dawn Staley's program. Or maybe they're a basketball fan. They say, Lamont Paris, I'd like to see you make a run. So it's very difficult, I think, in this era. If you're not, it's about momentum, right? Paul Maneri's now got to go out on the rubber chicken circuit, shake hands, and find those big Gamecock donors, or someone associated with the program does, and get commitment there. And maybe it's there, because this is a very, very proud fan base when it comes to baseball. There were a lot of tweets at the end of this season about how far the program has fallen. A lot of anger on social media that this team finished under 500. And, just 14 years ago, they were celebrating about this time their second consecutive College World Series victory. And it has just fallen so far since Ray Tanner stepped down. And so there's a lot of pride in this program. I don't know how much money there is behind it. But, some of this is baseball, too. Some of this is scouting, finding the right guys. And then you go out and you coach them up. And South Carolina has never been short on facilities in baseball. Founders Park, no, it's not as legendary as what they've got in Mississippi State and LSU, but Founders Park is one of the top 5 baseball facilities. So I think the commitment is there. I think the fan base will support, but they need to see something coming back on the other end of it. And you guys just mentioned, you really want a good start. Getting swept by Clemson again would probably spoil the mood next year in Columbia.
Flipping it back over to Clemson, Smitty, what do you attribute late season slides to? When you look at what Clemson did at one time during the regular season, they were number 2 in the country. And then they had some skits down the stretch, and we'll see. They didn't play a great team to end the season last weekend, but we'll see what this team looks like in the postseason. Yeah. You've been around the sport of baseball for a long time. How can you explain what you saw from Clemson?
I don't know.
It's different for every team. This team has good chemistry. They've had their ups and downs. I've seen them under Eric Bakich. I've seen them play great. I've seen them play poorly. And in baseball, sometimes we try to overanalyze. We pull it apart. Truthfully, when Clemson hasn't performed, oftentimes they've been facing really good competition and some good pitching. And good pitching can just throw the brakes on a winning streak. And that's just the way that it is. Virginia Tech played brilliantly in their ACC tournament opener. And they run into Aiden Canuck today and can't get much going against him. And they had made some really slick defensive plays in their opener to get to this point. Well, today against Clemson, they were clumsy and made some boneheaded defensive plays. So it really just can go day to day. But I do think there is an element of, I don't have it in front of me, but we did go over this on Sports Talk a little bit, just how many tomato cans that Clemson was able to rack up wins against in the middle part, the heart of their schedule. And when they play some of the tougher teams, some of the top-tier ACC, and again, everybody falls prey to this. Look at any of the teams in the SEC. They don't clean up against top competition either. But I think Clemson maybe got over its skis, and everyone did, in ranking them as high as number 2. This was probably never the second-best baseball team in college. It probably wasn't. It's probably properly ranked now in the top 15, a 5 seed in the ACC, and they're probably going to get a regional host. That's right where they should be, and let's see if they can earn it from there.
Talking to Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network. Smitty, something really fascinating is going on right now as close as we're ever going to get to like a collective player representation, spending time in front of Congress talking to them about changes coming towards college football and college athletics in general. Well, congratulations, Smitty. You didn't realize this was going to happen today. I'm going to make you a congressman, and you're now in that room. You're a moderator of college football now, sort of acting as a middleman between athletes and stewards of the game. What are you asking both sides to give up to bring them closer to some point in the middle that's amicable and equitable for everybody?
Oh, well, if I were a congressman, I'm a scandal waiting to happen. I probably will be doing something tonight that would get me in a lot of trouble. But first thing I would want to find out is,
once I leave here,
why are we in charge of this? And I know a lot of people have said they want some clarity. They need federal rulings on this. The NCAA is a federal body. I mean, not officially part of the government. I'm saying it is supposed to represent all of the schools. What's happened is the NCAA has punted on all of this. So the first thing I'd like to find out if I worked as a congressman is, hey, NCAA, what's your role? What are you doing? Because if you're just going to punt on everything and just wash your hands of it because you're angry that you lost the court case and the amateur model, which probably has been a lie for our entire lives, has finally just been exposed and you've had to shift. You have no plan B? Are you even involved in this? So I would talk about disbanding it. And they have put a lot of the onus on this new P4 group. So I would want to find out, is the NCAA going to continue to be a governing body? If not, they can leave the room if they're not going to have a role here. And then I'd also want some clarity from the courts. Where does this end? Because some people have said, well, why not have NIL for high school athletes? Well, one of the reasons I could tell you is many of them, almost all of them, are less than 18 years old. There's a lot of things 18-year-olds are not allowed to do, or if you're less than 21, you're not allowed to do. I need to know, if I were a congressman, I need to know, what is the court going to do in this? Because any ruling that we come up with, any law that we put on the book, is it going to be upheld by the courts? So I need some clarity from both of those sides. The athletes are just, it's a strange, you say athletes, but athletes are one thing that are playing currently, and it's another thing. Some of them are 10, 12, 14 years old, and they're going to have to abide by these laws in the future. So we need to look into the future and say what is fair, what is right. We probably can't make things right for former athletes. So what are we going to do starting now? And I really, really would like to know, NCAA, you've been an ineffective, ineffectual, impotent body for almost 50 years. Either stand up and do something or leave the room and disband.
Smitty, my last question for you. We discussed this in the last segment, I believe, or maybe 2 segments ago. We've spent a lot of time talking about Bill Belichick and his younger girlfriend, but when you look at what actually could happen on the field in 2025 in the ACC, where in your mind does North Carolina stack up? Could they rise to the top quickly?
So what I can do, I can call you.
I really don't know. And you bring up a great point. You know, Bill Belichick, when he was the coach of the Patriots, everybody raved about how it was no nonsense. It was like the Spurs and the Patriots. Somehow they had found the secret formula to keep distraction away from players, and that all stars were treated the same way as the last player on the bench. Bill Belichick hasn't even coached a game at North Carolina the first game at North Carolina, and he's all over the tabloids. This is just bonkers, and I do think it's an issue because there's no way that this much attention, it's like the Kardashians. You can't pay this much attention to everything and do your job effectively. So I think there's issues there. And what is North Carolina's talent level going to be? To me, the most fascinating part of this story might be Mac Brown, a story that broke today. He has said that they're lowering the academic standards in Chapel Hill to help Bill Belichick win ball games. I'd like to know a little bit more about that as well. I don't know. You know, everybody just assumes because Bill Belichick has more Super Bowls than everybody else that he will just go in, put a plan in place, and they'll win games at North Carolina. I'm not convinced yet. I mean, they're not going to be bad. They're just not going to be bad. And he is a good football coach. I mean, that's the understatement of the year. But is he the same man? We saw Bill Walsh return to college. He coached at Stanford. Then he went on, had a tremendous NFL career with the 49ers. Then went back to college to Stanford. Well, that didn't necessarily
Hey,
work.
John.
John Robinson returned to college. We've seen a lot of coaches do that.
Hold on.
Some have worked out. Some haven't. So
Looks like about 2 more minutes left.
All right, when
of that
it
interview.
starts getting close to the end, you can start running some bumper music up, and then as soon as it's done, you can, before we say, like, coming back, because I don't know if we what we teased, you can just cut it off. As soon as we say, thanks, Smitty, or something like that, cut it. And
Yeah.
He'll just have the hottest girlfriend at the
Okay.
end of the day. I think they'll go 8-4, and he's just going to be in the tabloids for most of the year. And I just don't know that this is a home run, not the home run hire that North Carolina thought it was on day one.
Smitty, I question, how do you make underwater basket?
I'm going to get the music ready.
We started, we were going into the topic of like ACC quarterback rooms. So you'll hear me say like, when we come back, we'll power rank the top 5. Like, just cut it off before that happens.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's the thing.
I'm going to have the mic hot shortly. See.
You don't know. You don't need to turn our mics back on for this.
Okay.
We're going straight to break.
Just cut
it and go straight to commercial break. We'll close out on the other side.
So this is just, think about what we've just done. We have not talked about on the field issues. It has been all off field right now. And Bill
Yeah, that's the kind of dude, Cole, that's going to go postal in this place someday.
About on field, not about his press conference, not about what the guys do at the club. It's about on-field performance and what they do on the practice field and on game day. And somehow he's messed this up, and he's got to turn that around, because right now nobody's talking about North Carolina football. They're talking about his girlfriend, George.
Very true. Smitty, also very true. You're the best. We appreciate you slipping out of the press box, I assume, up there at the ACC Baseball Championship to spend some time with us, as always, and we'll do it again soon.
Bryson and Diesel on the Fan
You're hot.
Upstate.
Well, good news for Atlanta Braves fans. We don't have to see the Atlanta Braves lose tonight because the Atlanta Braves are postponed until September. Not the entire season, just today's game, Diesel. It's true. It's true. We don't have to go through our sufferings today.
Season postponed, winning postponed,
Yeah.
championships postponed.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take the postponements. By the way, shout out to Ingles Markets. We appreciate them in all that they do. We have been here since about 2:30 today, and they have been fantastic. And Tolos today, Diesel, that have come out. Man, how about them Tolos?
Shout out to a brand new Tolo that we've never had a chance to talk to, Kyle from Stag's Garden Center. He says they have us on all the time over there, and he just came up here. It's Stag's just down the road from us, and he came up to say what's up, shake hands, and say hello.
Appreciate that, Kyle. Good to hear from you, man. Hope you can start. I know he said it's springtime is busy, can't listen as much, but
He
we
stopped by to
appreciate
say
you.
hi.
That's right. That he sure did. Any other huge headlines? We did get to SGA being named the NBA MVP. Anything else that I missed?
Yeah, here's the big one, Cole. There's a company called Enhanced Games that is going to engage in a brand new sports league of Olympic-style sports where participants are allowed / outright encouraged to use PEDs like steroids, testosterone, and growth hormones. Organizers say they hope to remove the stigma of using these substances and promote safer ways to push limits of human performance.
That's the real story?
Yeah, it's a real thing, and of course it's coming out of Vegas, right?
Of course, yeah.
Weightlifting,
What do you expect?
like whatever they're gonna do, and everybody's gonna be on roids.
That doesn't surprise me that it's happening there. But you know what? Roids have always been used. They just it's only frowned upon when you what? Just like
Get
anything in
caught.
life. You get caught. It is frowned upon. But a lot of fun today here at Eagles.
Interesting stuff as well, Cole. There's some intrigue and speculation around Phoenix Mercury star Sophie Cunningham's sudden trade. This was a couple of months ago, but it was sudden when it happened. After she's been now accused of having an affair with Suns and Mercury CEO Josh Bartelstein, who is married. I think Josh should be accused of having the affair. I don't know if Sophie's married or not, but the accusation comes from Suns VP of Security Cornelius Craig, who is also suing the organization for what he calls lapses in security.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So we don't know if he's disgruntled, the disgruntled employee who's now trying to smear his boss. I don't know.
Really good stuff. Tolos, we need your interaction again tomorrow. That's it for us, Diesel. That's it. We got to go home.
Yep.
We got to say goodbye.
Got deli sandwiches to eat.
Oh, they're the best.
They are the best. Tolo.